Chapter 1020. Ao Wushuang was not an idiot. Even if it was not obvious, he was alert enough to notice that something strange had happened around the sect. Moreover, he had already reacted. Many disciples of the Peerless sect could be seen patrolling the surroundings of the Peerless sect. They were patrolling openly and very ostentatiously, as if they were showing off something. However, some people thought that it was a warning. Not only that, the sects that were on good terms with the Peerless sect also received requests for help from the Peerless sect. A storm was brewing and anything could happen. This time, Ao Wushuang would not be as unprepared as the previous time. The disciples of the Peerless sect all rushed towards the Peerless sect to prepare for the battle. The reaction of the Peerless sect was seen by the other immortal sects. At least, Su Yun was. The matter of the gate to the immortal realm had attracted the attention of the entire immortal realm. It was the first time that people from the immortal court were forced to use the spirit-gathering token. Although the spirit-gathering token existed, its use was extremely rare. No one would have thought that the immortal court would be forced to such a state. However, the influx of people from the outside world at the gate to the immortal realm made many people in the immortal realm vigilant. The sudden appearance of so many existences was definitely not a good sign. Su Yun did not know how the other sects in the immortal realm would react. At least, he decided to prepare well. He did not like to cram at the last minute. It was necessary to prepare in advance. However, before that, he had to make a trip to the Peerless sect. Of course, it was not only to observe the situation around the Peerless sect. Most importantly, it was to probe the Peerless sect and their attitude. Just by looking at it, Qing Er's existence was not just a symbol of a treasure. She was more like a pool of calamity. Because there were people who wanted to get their hands on her. No matter where she went, it was bound to cause countless massacres and countless bloodshed. If the Peerless sect took her in, it would mean countless troubles for the Peerless sect. The reason why the Peerless sect took Qing Er in was because of Shangguan Qingcheng. However, Su Yun did not know how long Shangguan Qingcheng's face could last, nor did he know how much more Ao Wushuang would sacrifice for Qing. Su Yun would not trust an existence that he did not understand at all, so he had to see through Ao Wushuang's attitude. If possible, he was more willing to bring Qing Er back this time. It was just that, although he currently controlled 4 immortal sects, it was not enough to completely protect Qing Er. It had to be known that the Peerless sect was already extremely strenuous on their own, and he had to rely on the other almighty beings that were close to Ao Wushuang, but they were still stretched thin. The power of the immortal seeking sect and the other sects needed to be consolidated, and at the same time, he needed to develop a few more sects to expand his strength, so that he could protect Qing Er. Su Yun's speed towards the Peerless sect was very fast. As soon as he confirmed his itinerary, he immediately set off. Now that the 4 great immortal sects were developing with all their might, there were fewer things being transported to the true devil realm. Although the things in the immortal realm were good, it did not mean that the things in the immortal realm were suitable for the devil cultivator. If the devil cultivator relied on the things of the immortal realm, although their cultivation could be raised for a short period of time, it would kill their future path. Although the immortal seeking sect was the weakest of the 4 immortal sects, it was also the most complicated. This was because the current immortal seeking sect had already been invaded by countless devil cultivator. The difference in strength between the true devil realm and the immortal realm was simply too great. If they wanted to contend against the immortal realm, with the current strength of the true devil realm, it was simply a fantasy. Perhaps within 1,000 years, the true devil realm would not be able to fight against the immortal realm. However, the gap in strength could always be filled with time. In less than a day, Su Yun had already arrived in front of the Peerless sect. The current Peerless sect was not much different from before. The only thing worth noticing was that there were a large number of disciples patrolling around the Peerless sect. The surroundings were still as quiet as ever, as though there was no one there. However, no one knew how many people were hiding in the dark. After expressing his intentions to the disciple immediately informed Ao Wushuang. When Ao Wushuang knew that Su Yun had come to see him, he did not deliberately receive him, but let Shangguan Qingqing receive him. After all, Shangguan Qingqing and Su Yun were both from the Sky Martial Continent. With Shangguan Qingqing taking care of Qing'er in the Peerless sect, she did not suffer any grievances. Instead, she learned a lot of immortal techniques. Shangguan Qingqing used all her strength to develop Qing'er's physique, hoping that she could recover her strength before reincarnation as soon as possible. As long as she recovered her strength, all the troubles would vanish like smoke in thin air. After meeting Qing'er, Su Yun immediately started to chat with Shangguan Qingqing. Sect leader Ao should know about the recent situation in the Peerless sect, right? He has already made thorough preparations. Shangguan Qingqing smiled slightly. Don't worry. Is that so? Su Yun's face revealed some hesitation. After a while, he opened his mouth. Palace Master Shangguan, actually there is something that Su Yun does not know if he should say it or not. Just say it. It's about sect leader Ao. Su Yun said indifferently. I do not know what the relationship between Palace Master and sect leader Ao is, so I do not know how far sect leader Ao will go for Qing'er. You're worried that Wushuang will not be able to withstand the pressure from the outside world, and will give up on Qing'er? Although Qing'er is Miss Mei Yuan's disciple, she is not related to sect leader Ao. Furthermore, will sect leader Ao be willing to sacrifice countless of his disciples for Qing'er? Su Yun said solemnly. His words were not without reason. Shangguan Qingqing finally understood the purpose of Su Yun's visit. She thought for a moment, then smiled and replied, Don't worry, the reason why Wu Shuang wants to protect Qing'er is not only because she is Mei Yuan's disciple, there are other reasons. What else is he doing? Of course it's for Qing'er's identity before she reincarnated, which is also Qing'er's identity after her god spirit body matures. Shangguan Qingqing said softly. My identity after I mature? Could it be her previous identity? Su Yun was slightly startled. Not bad. Shangguan Qingqing nodded her head and said, Wu Shuang is a good person, at least he will fulfill his duty. However, this does not mean that he has no selfish motives. Protecting Qing'er requires a lot of effort, but he also hopes that this will allow Peerless sect to advance to a higher realm, and become a super sect that resounds throughout the immortal world. If that's the case, isn't there a simpler way? Su Yun's voice gradually deepened. Although he had only said half of what he wanted to say, the meaning behind his words was already very clear. He won't do that. Shangguan Qingqing shook her head. Why do you say that? Because I won't let him. You? A trace of astonishment surfaced on Su Yun's face. However, at this moment, a strange shout rang out from the distant pavilion. Ah! His voice was especially loud and sonorous, causing the nearby Peerless sect members to jump in fright. Everyone rushed over in unison. What happened? Listen to this voice. It seems to be junior brother Zhang's. Zhang Maxian? That direction is the Imperial View platform. Quickly go and see what's going on. Shouts were heard. One after another, the disciples ran in that direction. Su Yun and Shangguan Qingqing were also shocked as they ran in that direction. However, just as the two of them got close to the Imperial View platform, they heard the sounds of fighting. Everyone's face changed. Who dared to create trouble in the Peerless sect? Su Yun also felt that something was wrong. He quickly rushed past the disciples and rushed forward. However, the scene in front of him stunned him. In the surroundings of the pavilion named Imperial View Platform, there was a large amount of blood-red mist. Within this blood mist, there was a large number of Peerless sect disciples. These disciples were holding immortal weapons and immortal weapons in their hand. They were entangled together and fighting crazily. Their behavior was extremely strange. Each of them was covered in blood-red patterns as they attacked the surrounding disciples without any regard for their own safety. It was as if they had lost their minds. Other than himself, everyone in the Peerless sect was their enemy. Other than that, any Peerless sect disciple who got close to the blood mist would experience the same change. Everyone, disperse, disperse! Don't come over! An elite disciple sensed that something was wrong and immediately shouted, "There's something wrong with this blood mist," Su-yun said in a deep voice. Why would such a blood mist appear in the Imperial View platform for no reason? This is not a small matter. Quickly inform the sect leader. Shangguan Qingqing shouted. No need. I'm already here. At this moment, a loud shout rang out. Soon after, a large number of silhouettes could be seen rushing over from the horizon. A ray of white light rapidly rushed over, descending at a speed that was difficult to see with the naked eye. After landing, a strong wind blew, and the blood mist was blown away by the strong wind. The disciples who were affected by the blood mist immediately returned to their original appearances after the blood mist dissipated. Each of them stood dumbfounded on the spot, not knowing what had happened. Ao Wu Shuang's methods were indeed extraordinary. Su-yun, who was at the side, secretly exclaimed. This blood mist was deliberately created by someone. I'm afraid someone has already started to attack our Peerless sect. Sect leader, we should immediately issue a warning and prepare for battle. Just then, an elder at the side said in a deep voice. Ao Wu Shuang did not speak. Just then, a cry of alarm rang out again. Not good, sect leader. Over there. There are people killing each other again. A disciple hurriedly ran over and shouted in panic. When everyone heard this, their expressions all changed. Sect leader, there's still the south. There's a large amount of blood mist in the south. Sect leader, there's more in the north too. Sect leader. At the same time, countless voices rang out from all directions. Hearing that, Su-yun's pupils dilated and his heart thumped wildly. His brain did not seem to think as he immediately turned and rushed towards Qing Air. Chapter 10:21. Why would there be so many changes in the Peerless sect for no reason? There must be an outsider behind all this. Although the Peerless sect was powerful and had many enemies, but at this critical juncture, Su-yun believed that it was not the doing of the Peerless sect's enemies, but those who were eyeing the Divine Spirit's body. Ao Wu Shuang did not hesitate and immediately ordered the sect to enter a state of alert. All the experts in the sect rushed out and rushed towards the place where the blood mist appeared. The disciples were completely isolated, all in a small group, to prevent the blood mist from appearing and controlling the disciples to cause unnecessary trouble. However, how did this blood mist appear and who was behind it? These were the things that needed to be investigated the most at the moment. Furthermore, no one knew if the other party had any other methods. If they only relied on the blood mist, it would be far from enough to deal with the huge Peerless sect. Su-yun did not care so much. He rushed to Qing Er's training ground almost immediately. Qing Er had been in closed-door cultivation for a period of time. In order to eliminate the hidden dangers of the Divine Spirit's body, Shangguan Qingqing specially asked Ao Wu Shuang to let him use the Peerless sect's secret technique to help Qing Er cultivate. Qing Er had the Divine Spirit's body, so her cultivation speed was extremely terrifying. In the early stages of the Divine Spirit's cultivation speed was extremely slow, but towards the end, it would be like an arrow shooting through the sky, shooting straight into the clouds. Even Su-yun could not compare to Qing Er in the Divine Spirit's body. Her terrifying cultivation speed would disappear completely after she completely recovered her strength before she reincarnated. As for what her strength would be after reincarnation, no one knew. Qing Er's training ground was a quiet courtyard. The courtyard was spacious, and there were many immortal flowers and herbs. Two maids stood at the entrance, and in the middle was a gigantic pavilion. The pavilion's design was extremely interesting, like a gigantic mooncake. In fact, inside the pavilion was a vast martial arts field. From the outside, the pavilion did not seem to be big, but the space inside was more than 10 times that of the outside. Su-Yun, you're here? Just as Su-Yun neared the pavilion, a clear voice rang out. Su-Yun looked towards the direction of the voice, only to see a young lady with pink hair walking out of nowhere. The young girl was dressed in bright clothes. Her lips were red and her teeth were white. Her long hair fluttered in the wind. She was extremely beautiful. Just by walking over, she gave off a feeling of vitality and was especially eye-catching. So it's Miss Shangguan. Su-Yun immediately cupped his fists, seeing Shangguan Meiyang. His anxious mood immediately relaxed. Shangguan Meiyang was standing here, which meant that Qing'er was temporarily fine. Su-Yun, when did you come to Peerless Sect? How come I don't know? Shangguan Meiyang looked at Su-Yun strangely and said, Are you here to look for Qing'er? I just arrived. Su-Yun looked into the pavilion and said, Can Qing'er come out now? Shangguan Meiyang shook her head. Qing'er's closed-door cultivation this time is to break through. Once she comes out, her cultivation will break through, and her realm will increase. It is extremely crucial, she cannot stop, and even more so, she cannot come out early. Su-Yun, if you have anything important you can tell me here. I am also cultivating here. When Qing'er comes out, I will tell her. I don't have anything important to do. Su-Yun thought for a while, and was about to say something, but just then, a strange pressure suddenly swept over, enveloping the entire area. Su-Yun and Shangguan Meiyang's face changed. There's a situation. What's going on? Is someone coming? Shangguan Meiyang looked left and right and said unnaturally. The qi was extremely oppressive and extremely unfriendly. She truly did not know who in the Peerless Sect would bring such a qi here. Could it be Ao Wushuang? The Peerless Sect might not be peaceful today, Miss Shangguan. It's better to be careful. Quickly gather some people to set up a defense. I don't know what will happen here. It's always better to have more people. Su-Yun took out the death sword from the sword sheath, walked to the front of the pavilion, and said with his back facing Shangguan Meiyang. Hearing that, Shangguan Meiyang was startled, but quickly understood everything. She was not an idiot. After thinking about it carefully, she knew why Su-Yun would appear at this time. He must have smelled something. Shangguan Meiyang thought, then shouted to the 2 servants at the door. Quickly go and inform my father, let him send more people here, there's a thief causing trouble here. Yes, miss. Hearing that, the servants immediately ran out of the door. But before they could even run a few steps, a yellow light suddenly descended from the sky, directly striking their bodies. The 2 of them did not even have the chance to scream, and were immediately engulfed by the yellow light. Their bodies disappeared. Without a trace, their souls were gone. They had already died a horrible death. Ah! Shangguan Meiyang's face turned pale white. She screamed, then immediately shouted in grief and anger. Xiao Tao! Xiao Rong! But the 2 servants could no longer hear Shangguan Meiyang's voice. So just then, a few more rays of yellow light descended from the sky, directly shooting towards Shangguan Meiyang. Seeing that, Shangguan Meiyang anxiously retreated, but there were too many yellow lights, and they were extremely dense, like a huge hail falling down. She saw that she could not dodge, and immediately pulled out her sword to block. But although she was Ao Wushuang's daughter, she had just entered the Peerless Sect, and her strength was not high. Facing such a terrifying attack, even if she could block it, she would still be injured. Damn it! Shangguan Meiyang's small face tensed up. Her pink hair was in a mess. The sword in her hand was tightly gripped by her. The yellow light came extremely suddenly. It was already not easy for her to react. Her eyes trembled. Can I take it? But just at this moment, a tall figure suddenly appeared in front of her. Shangguan Meiyang was startled. She looked over and realized that the person standing in front of her was Su-Yun. He raised his palm and slightly raised it. A pale white qi cover instantly enveloped the 2 of them. The yellow light that fell down immediately turned into nothingness and disappeared. So strong. Shangguan Mei Yang could not help but exclaim in her heart. She never thought that Su Yun would be so strong. She could clearly feel the terrifying power contained in the yellow light. Su Yun lowered his hand, holding onto his sword. He stared at the sky. Since you're here, why are you hiding? Su Yun bellowed. Hearing that, suspicion surfaced in Shangguan Mei Yang's heart. But very quickly, a large number of figures appeared in the air, and she understood what Su Yun was talking about. Those figures seemed to have used some kind of Dharma treasure to conceal their bodies and auras. Now that the Dharma treasure was withdrawn, their appearances were revealed. Shangguan Mei squinted her eyes and saw that there were both men and women among them. They were dressed differently and did not seem to be from the same sect. Their strength was also uneven. Some of their auras were shockingly terrifying, while others were ordinary. But what shocked Shangguan Mei Yang the most was how did these people get here? These people were not from the Peerless sect. They had all come here. How did they get in? Where was the Peerless sect's defense system? Where were the people from the Peerless sect? Did they not exist? For such a big sect, the sect was extremely strict. If an outsider wanted to enter without permission, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. But now, so many people had barged in. What a powerful spatial qi! Su Yun raised his head and used his nose to sniff. Suddenly, his serious face relaxed and said indifferently, "For the sake of obtaining the God Spirit's body, you guys have put in quite a bit of effort." The people spread out and surrounded the place in an arc. Seeing that, Shangguan Mei Yang immediately went closer to Su Yun. She looked around anxiously and said, "Su Yun, do you know what's going on? These people should be here for Qing. Su Yun said, "How did they barge into the Peerless sect? They should have used some kind of extremely powerful and rare treasure." Su Yun said softly, "The dense spatial qi in the air means that the treasure has already dissipated. This is most likely a treasure that can only be used once, and to be able to send so many immortals here, this treasure should be extremely rare. Now, the entire Peerless sect is in chaos. There is a large amount of blood mist in the sect. Your father and the rest are currently attracted by the blood mist. The experts of the Peerless sect are all investigating who caused the blood mist, so they are unable to be distracted, and these people took the opportunity to directly come here, planning to snatch Qing away. So it's like that." Hearing Su Yun's words, Shangguan Mei Yang understood. So there were people intentionally targeting Qing. Be careful. But, if it's like that, my father should also think of Qing. They should be here soon. The experts of the Peerless sect will be here, but in this period of time, they just need to bring her away in this period of time. Then we must delay them. Shangguan Mei Yang clenched her teeth and said seriously. Of course. Su Yun turned and looked at the pavilion, then spoke to Shangguan Mei Yang. "Miss Shangguan, your cultivation is still shallow. It's better for you to temporarily enter the pavilion and avoid the brunt of the attack. I'll handle this." "How can I do that?" Shangguan Mei Yang said anxiously. "How can I leave you here alone?" "Ugh, I can handle this alone." "Su Yun, don't force yourself. Although your cultivation is stronger than mine, we are both from the Sky Martial Continent. No matter how strong you are, how can you handle so many immortals? I know you care about Qing. If not, you would not have come here at this time. But no matter what, I hope you know, no matter who it is, including me, no one wants anything to happen to you. One more person means one more strength. I will fight with you." Shangguan Mei Yang said it extremely seriously, her eyes revealing a strong determination. Chapter 10:22. Su Yun was startled. He looked at Shangguan Mei Yang in a daze, and only regained his senses after a long while. He laughed, but did not say anything. He just turned and stared at the person at the other side. The people who came to capture Su Qing knew that time was of the essence, and did not dare delay any longer. Two of the immortals used some kind of magic treasure, and 2 rays of red light flew into the sky and exploded. The red light turned into a light screen that looked like a veil, completely enveloping the entire pavilion area. Is this a barrier? I'm afraid this place has been isolated by them. Shangguan Meiyang said seriously. Since we are going to make a move, we naturally have to be fully prepared. If there is any movement here, the experts of the Peerless sect will be able to arrive in a few breaths of time, but if it is calm here, the people of the Peerless sect will not be able to find us so quickly. If my guess is not wrong, I'm afraid there are still a few disciples of the Peerless sect patrolling the entrance to send away those who come closer. Su Yun said indifferently. Hearing that, Shangguan Meiyang's face became extremely ugly, her heart was thumping violently. These guys, what exactly do they want to do? Just then, the experts on the other side had already moved. They did not give Su Yun any leeway, and with this move, they all moved, and all of them rushed towards the pavilion. The people at the periphery rushed towards the pavilion, while the group of people inside rushed towards Shangguan Meiyang and Su Yun. The dense pressure and cold killing intent enveloped the two of them tightly. Shangguan Meiyang could not hold on by herself. She was completely unable to resist the aura released by the other party. Her entire body was cold, and she could not help but tremble from the cold. Not good, Su Yun. They plan to go find Qinger. You stay here and delay these people. I will go and stop them from entering the pavilion. Shangguan Meiyang was anxious, she shouted loudly, and was about to rush over. But just as she moved, her slender jade hand was grabbed by a warm big hand. Shangguan Meiyang's entire body trembled. She turned her head to look, only to see that Su Yun had actually grabbed onto her. Su Yun, what are you doing? Shangguan Meiyang's voice became anxious, and her breathing became hurried. However, Su Yun did not reply to her. Instead, he took out a magic treasure from somewhere and threw it into the air. A gigantic pitch-black eagle rose into the sky and covered the pavilion. The eagle was incomparably huge, its aura like a rainbow. Its sudden appearance caught those immortals off guard, and they were directly knocked away. Dark. The long cry of the eagle resounded through the sky. It landed heavily on the pavilion, as if the entire pavilion was its nest. Seeing the eagle, Shangguan Meiyang's body immediately froze. Don't go over, you can't block it. Stay beside me, lest you get hurt. Su Yun bellowed. He raised his sword and stared at the incoming people. This was the Devil Spirit Hawk. Its power had already been completely unearthed. Adding Su Yun's current cultivation, it caused its body to be stronger than before, although it could not repel so many immortals. But it was still easy to stall for time. Su Yun had originally wanted to summon the Devil Bone Giant and transform it into a Devil Bone Spirit. With the help of the Heroic Spirit, it would be easy to stall for time, but if he summoned the Heroic Spirit again, the Qi would be too dense, and it would definitely attract the attention of the immortals. Even if Ao Wushuang did not pursue the matter, it would still spread out, and at that time there would be endless trouble. Forget it, I should just kill him quickly. Su Yun's eyes congealed. He activated the Imperial Battle Robe, releasing his divine power. He wrapped his body and rushed towards the people who were rushing over. There were more than 20 people, and all of them had terrifying cultivations. However, this person was fearless and turned around to welcome them. Crash! A whirlwind was produced from the bodies of these immortals, and with an astonishing speed, it surged towards Su Yun's body. These Qi were all immortal Qi, they were already close to Su Yun, and the immortal Qi in their bodies had already started to be absorbed by Su Yun. Although the Imperial Battle Robe was a divine object and was extremely powerful, it was currently dealing with immortals. The immortal Qi of immortals was extremely dense, and could not be absorbed in a short period of time, just like the Vice Palace Master of the Great Linglong Palace, Lang Ju-yi. Although these immortals were not as strong as Lang Ju-yi, they would not be so easily scared off by the absorption power of the Imperial Battle Robe. Everyone unleashed their ultimate techniques, and rays of multicolored light shot towards Su Yun. The destructive aura directly crushed the ground below the pavilion into powder. The clouds were exposed, but they were also in a state of collapse. The surroundings shook violently, and there seemed to be a strong vibration in the air that was difficult to suppress. Su Yun, be careful! Shangguan Mei Yang shouted anxiously. She immediately raised her sword and rushed over. But before she could get close, waves of sword lights flashed past her eyes, and with a series of shwa-shwa sounds, countless flying swords flew out from Su Yun's sword sheath. All of them were like living creatures, circling around him. They did not go to defend Su Yun against the incoming attacks, but instead directly went to cut towards the nearby existences, and as for the multicolored and terrifying immortal techniques, all of them landed on Su Yun's body. But Su Yun did not move at all. When those moves landed on his body, they did not cause him any damage at all. How is this possible? The immortals were all shocked. They could not believe what they had just seen, but just as they were in a daze, the flying swords that were dancing wildly had already reached their bodies. The sharp swords had directly cut through their flesh. These swords were already controlled by the immortal Qi. Every single sword's body was wrapped by Su Yun's vast and dense immortal power. The immortal power broke through their magic treasure, and directly affected their bodies. The immortals were struck by the sword, and blood dripped out. It was as if a rain of blood had flowed out from the 20 over people. This person is not easy to deal with. We just need to hold him back, and let Lord Deng and the others seize the divine body. A middle-aged man shouted. Hearing that, everyone nodded their heads in agreement, and then dispersed, surrounding Su Yun, but did not have any plans to attack. Hold me back? Is it that simple? Su Yun snorted. He raised his sword and rushed forward, rushing towards the nearest immortal. The immortal's face tensed up. He immediately retreated, but just as he moved, Su Yun, who was rushing towards him, suddenly disappeared. What? The immortal was stunned. In such a short period of time, the other party had disappeared. What kind of invisibility technique was this? However, although he could not see Su Yun, the other immortals around him could clearly see that Su Yun did not disappear, but continued to rush towards him. It was just that he had been hit by the fleeting shadow art. Just like that, the immortal lost Su Yun's target, and at the same time, his body was pierced through by the death sword. He raised his arm, and his power exploded out. The death sword was like the scythe of the god of death, directly tearing that person's body into two halves. Even the magic treasure was cut open, and his internal organs and blood fell out. That person's body fell to the left and right, and people could even clearly see the immortal eye and spirit vein in his body. The soul flew out, but not long after it rose into the air. It was shattered by the surging immortal technique. Seeing this scene, all the immortals present were alarmed. What kind of realm was this to be able to have such a method? Su Yun killed one person, turned his sword edge, and rushed towards another immortal. His killing intent was very heavy, and his speed was also very fast. The immortals could not see through his strength, but looking at his swift and fierce methods, they could tell that this person was definitely not someone they could match up to. Other than running, they had no other choice. The immortals at the side were hesitating whether or not they should attack Su Yun to stall for time, but some of them had the heart, but they did not have the guts. They were afraid that Su Yun would immediately turn his sword and rush towards them. The image of the immortal dying was still lingering in their minds. Take that woman down first. Finally, someone noticed Shangguan Mei Yang, who was at the side. Since they could not do anything to Su Yun, they might be able to use this woman to restrain him. Immediately, the immortals rushed over. Don't go too far. Shangguan Mei Yang also had a stubborn temper. Originally, in the Sky Martial Continent, she was a top expert, but in the immortal world, she was like an ant. However, one had to know that her father was Ao Wushuang, and as Ao Wushuang's daughter, how could she not have any life-saving magic treasure? Facing this situation, Shangguan Mei Yang did not hold back anymore. She directly pulled off the silver necklace around her neck, clenched it tightly in her fist, and shouted loudly, "Mountain of Wind!" As soon as the voice fell, the necklace immediately broke into 4 pieces. The 4 pieces of necklace respectively released wind, wood, fire, and earth, and the 4 pieces of necklace started to revolve around Shangguan Mei Yang. When all the immortals got close, the 4 pieces of necklace lit up at the same time, and with a whoosh sound, they turned into 4 figures of light. These 4 figures of light were all covered by the special elemental power that they were bestowed with, and were extremely mystical. Just as the immortals got close, they were attacked fiercely by the light figures. They were filled with immortal power, they were extremely powerful, and could transform chi into weapons, easily shaking the void, breaking through immortal power. It was extremely terrifying. Before the immortals who wanted to capture Shangguan Mei Yang could even touch a single hair on her, they were stopped by the 4 elemental light figures and were severely injured. Shangguan Mei Yang looked at the 4 light figures in shock, not daring to move at all. Although she knew that the treasures that Ao Wushuang had given her were incredible, she did not expect them to be so powerful. None of the dozen or so immortals were able to get close to her, with Shangguan Mei Yang holding back a lot of immortals. Su Yun's side was much more relaxed. He immediately used the drifting shadow art to kill one of the immortals. Under the drifting shadow art, immortals could not resist at all, because they had lost their target, so how could they defend? The immortals at the side could only see Su Yun killing the other immortals one by one. It was extremely easy, and the scene was extremely strange. If this continued, these immortals who came to snatch the divine body would definitely be annihilated. I never thought that there would be such a capable person here. It seems like the peerless sect cannot be underestimated. Right at that moment, a clear voice came from the sky. Following that, a ray of blue light rushed over, straight towards Su Yun. Chapter 10:23. Compared to the surrounding immortals, this person's aura was many times stronger, and his strength was not on the same level. As soon as he got close, a thick golden greatsword slashed towards Su Yun's back. In that moment, Su Yun felt the divine power protecting his body tremble, as though there was a sickle on his back, wanting to tear his body apart. This kind of pressure actually ignored the protection of the imperial battle robe, and directly affected his body. Just from this move, Su Yun knew that the person who came was not friendly. He kicked the immortal in front of him away, and with a backhand swing of his sword, he blocked the golden greatsword. Dong! The 2 swords collided, and intense ripples spread out. The air trembled, and the scattered immortal chi in the surroundings was immediately dispersed. The terrifying chi wave sent all the immortals flying, and if not for the protection of the 4 elemental light figures, Shangguan Mei Yang would have been in a sorry state. Su Yun's arms trembled, his palms were numb. This person's sword attack was so terrifying that it made people speechless. He did not only rely on immortal power, but also an extremely shocking amount of brute force. With such brute force, it was not strange that the imperial battle robe could not defend against it. Su Yun flew back more than 10 meters, and only stabilized his body after a long while. This person's cultivation was probably much stronger than his initial stage spirit immortal. If he continued to rely on the strength of the magic treasure to suppress the enemy, then he would definitely lose this battle. Oh! Good strength! Seeing that Su Yun had actually stabilized his body, the man also let out a surprised cry. Su Yun sized up the man. He was dressed in golden armor, golden helmet and golden robes, carrying a gigantic sword sheath on his back. He held a gigantic sword in his hand. The sword was extremely exaggerated, like a coffin board, but such a gigantic sword was being held by him with one hand, and the other party seemed to be extremely relaxed, as though he could not feel the power of the sword at all. This person was tall and sturdy, but his clothes were luxurious and noble. It was unknown where this expert came from. At the same time that Su Yun sized him up, he was also looking at Su Yun, and after a round, he snorted, raised his sword high up, and rushed forward again. Powerful is powerful, but this is far from enough. Your cultivation is too low. If I want to kill you, it will be as easy as blowing off dust. Now let me send you to hell." With a shout, the golden greatsword once again attacked. When the other immortals saw this, how could they waste such a great opportunity? A middle-aged man stood out and shouted to Shangguan Meiyang, "Send some people to delay that woman, the rest of you go and kill the puppet eagle, the rest of you rush into the pavilion, we must take the divine spirit body away before the unparalleled sex people arrive. Hurry!" "Yes!" The people around him shouted in unison. Then, they immediately spread out and split into several groups to attack. Although Su Yun had killed a lot of the immortals, in terms of numbers, they still crushed Su Yun. Adding that each of them had extraordinary strength, it was still extremely difficult for Su Yun to deal with them. When Shangguan Meiyang heard that the other party had such a plan, her heart immediately jumped. She looked towards Su Yun, and realized that Su Yun was also being held back by the other party, and immediately shouted, "Su Yun, be careful, don't go too far from here, they are looking for Qinger. Just take care of yourself. It'll be fine," Su Yun said in a low voice, then threw away the golden armored man and rushed towards the rest of the immortals. Seeing this, the golden armored man flew into a rage and chased after Su Yun with his sword. "Despicable bastard, you actually dare to ignore me? Good. I'll let you know how powerful I am," the armored man shouted as he swung his greatsword. Every time the sword struck, it would unleash an indescribably terrifying force. Su Yun took a few hits, but was immediately blown away by the opponent. This person's strength was ridiculously strong. Under the head-on clash, Su Yun was actually unable to gain any advantage, and the opponent was able to directly scatter the immortal qi in his body, obtaining the initiative. If this continued, Su Yun would definitely lose. He retreated a few steps, his mind quickly thinking. When the sword was about to land on his body, he nimbly dodged it. After a few moves, the armored man was surprised to discover that Su Yun's figure had actually dimmed, and quickly disappeared. His entire person had completely left his line of sight. Where did he go? The armored man looked left and right, but he could not find Su Yun's figure. Where did he go? The armored man shouted at one of the immortals. The immortal was stunned as he pointed to the air. The armored man was puzzled, but he did not know that he had already been hit by the fleeting shadow art, and the concept of Su Yun in his heart had already started to slowly disappear. After restraining the armored man, Su Yun directly slashed towards the other immortals. At this time, he had to take advantage of this opportunity to quickly get rid of these people. As long as he killed a few more immortals, they would not be able to spare any manpower to find trouble with Qinger. Su Yun's aura was like a rainbow. The immortals were unable to resist, and very quickly, 2 more people fell. Dong! Just then, a muffled sound suddenly erupted, and the demon spirit god Hawk in the distance suddenly dispersed, then turned into a streak of black smoke, and disappeared. Su Yun was startled. He looked over, only to realize that the armored man was actually holding onto a gigantic golden sword, and was rushing towards the pavilion. He raised his greatsword and fiercely swung it towards the pavilion. The terrifying sword qi tore apart the protective barrier of the pavilion, and directly tore the thick and wide wall into pieces. Boom! The earth trembled, the void trembled, and a terrifying power engulfed the entire area. The pavilion shook incessantly, like a lonely boat in the ocean. Seeing that, Su Yun's face changed. The drifting shadow art could make the armored man lose track of him, causing him to be completely invisible in his eyes. As he continued to activate it, he could even forget about his existence, and completely did not know that he existed. However, Su Yun did not continue to activate the drifting shadow art, because he still needed to spare more energy to deal with the other immortals. As for the armored man's actions, that was his own decision. Since he could not find Su Yun, he naturally did not care about him, and chose to directly attack the pavilion and take Su Qinger away. If Su Yun wanted to save Qing'er, then he had to appear. If not, the armored man and the other immortals would be enough to destroy the pavilion in an instant. Ah! Another immortal let out a mournful scream. His body was cut into pieces and he died. Seeing this, the armored man seemed to understand what the immortal had said. He waved at the pavilion with all his might as he shouted, "I know you're right next to me, and I know what you're thinking. But I have to tell you, if you don't show yourself, then I'll take away the divine spirit body. No one can stop me." Ha 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 ha. The armored man laughed out loud. His expression was extremely arrogant. The pavilion was the main training ground of the Peerless sect. The facilities inside the pavilion were all extremely expensive, and the materials used to build the exterior were all of high quality and were especially sturdy. But even so, it could not withstand the armored man's attack. His strength was too great. Even if he did not touch the pavilion, everyone could feel the terrifying power coming from the trembling pavilion. If this continued, the pavilion would definitely shatter, and Qing'er, who was in closed-door cultivation, would be awakened. Not only would her closed-door cultivation fail, she would also be affected, and her mental state would also regress. People who were in closed-door cultivation hated being disturbed the most. Su Yun's eyes turned cold. He immediately removed the drifting shadow art and rushed towards the armored man with the death sword. The armored man wanted to continue attacking the pavilion, but just as he was about to make a move, Su Yun rushed to the side. Suddenly, the mournful death sword brought along a trembling sound that sounded like the roar of a ghost, and fiercely slashed onto the armored man's chest. Dong! Immortal power and brute force burst forth from the sword at the same time. The armored man was caught off guard and was sent flying by the sword, but the armor on his body was also extraordinary. When the sword slashed down, the opponent was unharmed, only a shallow mark was left on the armor. The armored man fell to the ground and quickly stood up. Looking at Su Yun, who was in the air, a playful smile surfaced on his face. "You're finally willing to appear? I thought you would hide in the dark forever like a tortoise." The armored man laughed, and with a leap, he leapt towards Su Yun. The greatsword released a golden flame. Following the movement of the sword, the flames exploded, and like a gigantic hand, it grabbed towards him. Crash! The divine power of the imperial battle robe was completely activated. The flames approached Su Yun and immediately turned into nothingness. Su Yun turned around and slashed. The sword edge hummed, smashing onto the big sword, and the two of them were once again blown away by the power of the opponent's sword. The armored man smiled, staring at Su Yun with a gaze filled with passion. "Hee, not bad. Not bad, although your cultivation can't compare to mine. Your strength is very interesting. Looks like there's going to be fun today." The armored man turned his head and shouted at the immortals who were still entangled with Shangguan Meiyang. "You guys can go ahead and take the divine body. There's not much time left, leave this woman to me as well." With that, the armored man took out a mirror from somewhere. He raised the mirror up high, faced it towards him, and chanted a few incantations. The mirror immediately shot out a grayish-white light, shining on his body. A moment later, with a kacha sound, the mirror shattered, and the armored man's golden body also began to emit a strange gray light. Su Yun frowned. He felt that something was wrong, and immediately rushed forward, raising his sword to slash. However, the gray light on the armored man's body suddenly darted to the side, and with an astonishing speed, transformed into a human form. At a glance, the transformed gray man was exactly the same as the armored man, and when Su Yun approached, the two armored men raised their swords at the same time, and slashed at him. The fierce greatsword seemed to want to shatter the void. Su Yun could feel the extremely strong pressure coming towards him, as though the bones in his face were about to be crushed. He anxiously raised his death sword to block. Clang! A clear sound came out, and after a spin, Su Yun's entire body was like a bullet that was shot out. He flew backwards, and directly crashed into the pavilion. Bang! The pillars of the pavilion were shattered by Su Yun, and half of the pavilion immediately collapsed. Dust flew everywhere, and crushed stones flew everywhere. Chapter 10:24. The armored man's strength was already extremely astonishing. After he used that strange mirror, he actually replicated another existence with strength similar to his own. There were countless replication techniques in the 10,000 realms. It was easy to replicate things, and it was not difficult to replicate people, but many magic treasures or techniques could only replicate the shape, and it was extremely difficult to have the ability to replicate the original body. To be able to obtain a portion of the ability, it could be considered a high-grade technique, and to be able to completely replicate it, basically, it could be said to be a peerless item. Su Yun walked out from the ruins. His entire body was in a sorry state. Although he was not injured, the remaining energy still made him feel extremely uncomfortable. The pavilion was already on the verge of collapse. Su Yun did not know what was going on with Qing'er inside, but the situation was not looking good. The armored man had released his clone, and that clone was definitely enough to deal with Shangguan Meiyang. He himself would then hold Su Yun back, and the remaining immortals would be able to capture Su Qing'er easily, so Su Yun would be helpless. If something happened to Qing'er, Su Yun did not dare to think about the consequences. He did not know what would happen to him. He only knew that he was very worried and nervous, and his mind unconsciously thought of the things that happened in his previous life. Gradually, Su Yun's eyes turned red, and his state of mind became somewhat restless. The current situation is extremely bad. If this continues, Qing'er will definitely be persecuted by them. He clenched his teeth, and his expression became sinister. Brat, you can't change this. I will let you personally watch me take away that divine body. The armored man laughed as he walked over with his big sword in hand. Seeing that Su Yun looked like he had nowhere to go, he felt extremely carefree. Su Yun looked over. Shangguan Meiyang was already being held back by the armored man's clone. The clone was holding onto a large sword, dancing around Shangguan Meiyang. Although it was extremely powerful, its speed was not slow at all. The four elemental light figures were actually forced by the clone to the point where they could only defend, and could not repel it. Shangguan Meiyang no longer had the time to care about Qing'er, so the only one who could protect Qing'er was Su Yun. However, as the armored man approached, the remaining immortals also approached. There were less than 10 immortals left, and most of them were either killed by Su Yun or destroyed by the elemental light man. However, despite the heavy casualties, they did not have the slightest intention of retreating. Instead, they all approached the pavilion with even more desire. I think Ao Wushuang has already noticed what's going on here. Your time is limited, so act quickly. Let's start now. The armored man did not want to waste any more time, and directly raised his greatsword and rushed towards Su Yun. Yes, the immortals were getting anxious as well. With a shout, they rushed towards the pavilion. The immortal qi overflowing from everyone's bodies was like a rolling wave, approaching Su Yun. Su Yun held onto the death sword and stood in front of the ruins. His eyes were blood red and his expression was extremely solemn. When the people who were rushing over saw him like this, they all felt a chill in their hearts. Red eyes? This aura. Could it be that this fellow was a devil cultivator? Everyone was alarmed, and the armored man laughed out loud. Ha 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 ha, I didn't expect you to be a devil cultivator. Interesting. Interesting. Ha 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 ha. Watch me slaughter the demons today. With that said, his figure instantly disappeared, and when he reappeared, he was already less than 5 meters away from Su Yun. The golden greatsword directly pressed down, and the greatsword erupted with a dazzling light that was like the sun, like a blazing sun falling. This was to end Su Yun in one move. Is it interesting? Then I'll make it more interesting for you. Su Yun roared, his expression becoming extremely sinister. Circle after circle of pitch-black lines crawled on his pale white skin like poisonous snakes. A terrifying and peerless aura spread out. This extremely oppressive aura represented a powerful force, causing the immortals near him to panic, their bodies trembling. The soul of the demon saint. Suddenly, this person emitted such a terrifying aura. What was going on with this person? The armored man's heart was also inexplicably thumping. He didn't know why, but in such a short period of time, this strange fellow gave him a completely different feeling. This person. It was as if he had become a completely different person in an instant. What was going on? Forget it. The sword had already been swung. How could it be retracted? The armored man focused his eyes and activated all the strength in his body, smashing down without holding back. No matter what he looks like under my rising sun strike, even if he can withstand it, he will definitely be in a sorry state, the armored man thought. Unexpectedly, at this time, Su Yun suddenly raised his head, staring at the falling greatsword. He did not defend, nor did he attack, he just watched the terrifying attack. The armored man was shocked. Dong! The greatsword directly smashed onto Su Yun's face. An astonishing explosion sounded out on his face. The destructive wave of qi immediately swept out. The immortals that leaped over Su Yun and were close to the pavilion did not even have the time to defend, and were blown away by the wave of qi. The pavilion in the distance instantly shattered, turning into dust that splattered in all directions, and from the pavilion, a figure was lifted out. It was Su Qinger. She was dressed in emerald green clothes, her long hair was as black as ink, scattered around her shoulders, her pure white skin was slightly pink, and a few strands of black hair were casually swaying. What kind of beauty was this? But at this moment, her eyes were tightly closed, and she was quietly lying on the ground, as if she had fainted. Shangguan Mei Yang, who was still fighting with the clone, saw this, and cried out involuntarily, "Qinger! Pata!" Her distraction gave the armored man's doppelganger the perfect opportunity. The doppelganger's greatsword suddenly burst forth with the terrifying halo of the armored man. Like a blazing sun, the doppelganger smashed towards the wind elemental figure of light, which had the weakest defense. Boom! The wind elemental light figure was unable to defend, and was instantly destroyed, dispersing. One of the four elemental protection was immediately broken, and the clone took the opportunity to rush in. Shangguan Mei Yang anxiously dodged, but it was extremely hasty. Her abdomen was kicked, and she flew out, falling to the ground. Just as she was about to get up, she spat out a mouthful of blood, her rosy face became extremely pale, and her pink hair became a mess. She held on to her abdomen, her expression extremely pained, but just then, the clone rushed over again, not giving her a chance to catch her breath. The three elemental light figures anxiously blocked it, but the power and speed of the three light figures were much slower than before. Not only that, their bodies were also gradually dimming. Shangguan Mei Yang was not an idiot. Seeing this, she immediately understood. The time limit of the magic treasure was about to end. If not for the elemental light figure blocking, with Shangguan Mei Yang's strength, she would not even be able to last 3 breaths in front of the clone. Was today the end of the world? Shangguan Mei Yang's face was pale white as she thought. She turned her head and looked at Su Qinger, who had her eyes tightly closed, her expression pained. If she guessed correctly, her cultivation must have reached a critical stage, and was forcefully interrupted by an external factor, causing her qi to be chaotic, her body to be injured, and she fainted. In this situation, it would be best if someone could help her in time, otherwise, not only would she be injured, her cultivation would also be greatly damaged. What should I do? What should I do? Shangguan Mei Yang's mind was in a mess. She did not know what to do. Bang! Just then, an ear-splitting sound came from the side. Following that, a large amount of gray light splashed out, causing people to be unable to open their eyes. Shangguan Mei Yang anxiously closed her eyes and turned her head, not daring to look over. Only after a while did she turn her head to look, but with just a glance she was stunned. Over there, countless swords danced in the air, but these swords were different from the swords she had seen before. At this moment, these swords were all incomparably huge, 5 meters tall, as though they were sharp swords used by giants. At this moment, the sharp swords were all pierced in front of the broken pavilion, like a row of swords, but under each gigantic sword, there was an immortal. Those immortals were not dead yet, their bodies were pierced by the sharp body of the gigantic sword, blood flowed all over the ground, they struggled crazily, roared, moaned, and hammered, but the gigantic sword on their bodies was like a mountain, completely suppressing them. No matter how hard they struggled, they could not get up. The scene was extremely terrifying and tragic, like an Azura hell. All the immortals were suppressed by the sword. And the armored man was not in a good state either. His attack that was filled with confidence, when it landed on Su Yun's face, was actually unable to injure Su Yun by even half an inch. Instead, Su Yun extended his hand and grabbed the sword blade, restraining his sword. He used his face to receive the attack. The armored man's eyes were round and round. He could not believe what he had just seen. What was this guy's face made of? How could it be so hard? But just as the armored man was astonished, an even more shocking scene appeared. "You're very strong, aren't you?" Su Yun stared at the armored man with his blood-red eyes, and let out an extremely cold laugh. Seeing that, the armored man's entire body trembled. His soul seemed to be trembling, and an ominous feeling assaulted his heart. In the next second, a kacha sound came out, and Su Yun's hand that was holding onto the greatsword suddenly broke. The entire golden greatsword was actually broken into 2 halves. Poochie! The armored man spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot and fell from the sky. The greatsword was broken? The greatsword was his sacrificial magic treasure, refined with blood and connected with his life. Now that it was destroyed, he suffered a backlash. But what made him even more shocked, and what made him even more terrified, was that this guy had actually broken his own sword with his bare hands. Just how much power did he have to use? His eyeballs trembled, his fingers trembled, and his mind went blank. This scene, it was too shocking. However, now was not the time to think about this. The armored man endured the discomfort in his body and hurriedly stood up. Just as he was about to stand up, an iron-like palm suddenly pierced through his shoulder and lifted him up. Chapter 10:25. The armored man's face was filled with pain, and a large number of cracks had appeared on the armor on his body. He continued to stare at his legs, and raised his hand, wanting to pull out the hand that had pierced through his shoulder. However, he was helpless. The hand was like an iron pincer. Not only was its strength astonishing, it was also incomparably hard. Although he was extremely strong, compared to the strength of the hand, it was not even worth mentioning. When the immortals who had their bodies pierced by the gigantic sword saw that the armored man had been subdued by Su Yun, they all screamed in fear. If this person could kill the armored man so easily, then these people most likely wouldn't be able to survive today. "You! How did your strength suddenly increase by so much?" Seeing that he could not struggle, the armored man's face was ashen. He looked at Su Yun and said with a trembling voice, "Cultivation does not represent power, methods do." Su Yun moved his pale face closer to the armored man. The two of them were extremely close, and the armored man could even see the killing intent that leaked out from Su Yun's blood-red pupils. He knew that Su Yun would never let him go. The two of them were fighting to the death, and if he did not think of a countermeasure, he would only die. So this Lord is actually so powerful. "I lost, Lord, please don't kill me. If you can spare my life, I will definitely give Lord a generous reward." The armored man gasped for breath. "Reward? Do you think I care about that little thing of yours?" Su Yun's blood-red eyes squinted, the death sword fell from his hand, and his hand directly pressed onto the other arm of the armored man. Although his palm did not exert any force, the moment it was placed, the armored man felt an extreme sense of fear. His entire body trembled violently. For some reason, he felt that he would die in the next second. Sure enough, Kacha! A broken arm was torn off by the large hand. The speed at which it was being torn was astonishing. The armor on the armored man's body, and the defense of his body, were almost non-existent. His entire arm was instantly torn off and shattered into pieces. The armored man was stunned for a moment before he started to groan. The pain in his arm almost made his heart clench. "Who sent you?" Su Yun threw the broken arm on the ground and said. His sinister face and blood-red eyes gave off an immense sense of fear and pressure. "I wanted to come." The armored man endured the pain and said in a low voice. His voice was light and heavy, just like his trembling body. "Oh? In that case, you're not willing to speak frankly?" Su Yun's blood-red eyes flashed with a burst of light. Suddenly, he extended his hand out again and pulled off the armored man's legs. The armored man was unable to react in time. His 2 legs were like paper, easily ripped off. His armor broke and blood stained the ground. The armored man groaned in pain. In just a short moment, he had been turned into a human stick by Su Yun. He felt that he was more like an insect that had been caught by Su Yun. He could break his wings and limbs at will. "You won't get away with this." The armored man knew that he had no way out, so he did not dare to beg for mercy. Gritting his teeth, he roared in a low voice, and the clone that was attacking Shangguan Mei Yang immediately changed direction and rushed towards Su Yun. Roar! The clone released an earth-shattering roar, and rushed towards Su Yun with an almost crazed aura. However, just as the clone was about to get close to Su Yun, a gigantic flying sword descended from the sky and smashed onto the clone. The armored man saw a large sword standing in front of him. The swords might spread out and blew on his face, as if the sword's edge had slapped him, making him feel extremely uncomfortable. As for the clone, it had long since turned into ashes and could not be seen. This was simply a crushing power. The armored man's eyes trembled as he watched, and his soul seemed to be trembling. The strength of the clone was equal to his, but this clone was actually crushed by the opponent in one move. In other words, this person wanted to kill him. It would be as easy as blowing off dust? The armored man knew that there was no need for him to resist anymore. His opponent had such strength, so in his eyes, this little trick of his was probably just child's play. Resistance might not be of much use anymore. "If you don't want to tell me what I want to know, that's fine. I will know," Su Yun said coldly, but the scarlet red in his eyes did not decrease in the slightest. The entire scene was already under control. The immortals that were suppressed by the gigantic sword were unable to break free, including the armored man. No one could get close to Su Yun. Shangguan Mei Yang stood up with difficulty. The elemental light people around her dispersed one by one, but compared to this, she was more shocked. The strength that Su Yun had displayed was simply unbelievable. She did not know how strong this armored man was, but she knew that if this armored man wanted to kill her, he wouldn't even need to use the strength of a single finger. In front of Su Yun, he was like an ant, easily crushed. Su Yun, what cultivation level was he at? Shangguan Mei Yang thought to herself. Boom! Suddenly, a loud sound rang out. Following that, the entire area began to shake, and the barrier that enveloped the area began to shatter, like glass that had been shattered. One by one, they began to peel off. Seeing that, Su Yun immediately waved his hand, and the devil chi that filled the sky immediately drilled into his palm, disappearing without a trace. It was not appropriate to stay here for long. Su Yun grabbed the armored man and turned, planning to leave. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly turned and looked at Shangguan Mei Yang. "Miss Shangguan, I'll leave Qinger to you to take care of. Please don't tell sect leader Ao and the others that I have been here." If that's the case, I will be extremely grateful. With that said, Su Yun's figure suddenly disappeared, along with the armored man who was already a human stick. Not even a trace of the smell in the air was left behind. Shangguan Mei Yang stood there in a daze, her eyes trembling. At this moment, it was still difficult for her to recover from her shock. All of this was like a dream to her, it was so unreal. But it was real. She stood up, and after being in a daze for a while, she quickly ran towards Su Qinger. The blood in the immortals' bodies had almost dried up, and even if they struggled, they would still be powerless. They looked at Shangguan Mei Yang, who was staggering over with fear in their eyes, their chapped lips opened and closed, as though they were shouting something. Shangguan Mei Yang looked at the immortals in fear. If any of them broke free from the suppression of the gigantic sword and rushed out, she would be in danger. Fortunately, these gigantic swords seemed to be very powerful, and the immortals were unable to break free. Not long later, Shangguan Mei Yang approached the unconscious Su Qinger. Shangguan Mei Yang quickly walked over and hugged Qinger in her embrace, tightly pressing him against her soft and warm breasts. Qinger. Are you all right, Qinger? She extended her small hand and gently patted Su Qinger's smooth but cold face, but Qinger did not show any signs of waking up, and instead revealed an even more painful expression. Shangguan Mei Yang knew that the current Qinger was not something she could cure, and needed the powerful experts of the Peerless sect to do so. She could not delay any longer, she had to bring her away first. Shangguan Mei Yang clenched her teeth and activated her strength, wanting to carry Qinger. So just then, a series of rapid sound of something tearing through the air came out, followed by a large number of experts from the Peerless sect. They were like eagles soaring through the sky, pouncing over, and in the blink of an eye, they landed on the ground. Yanger. Shangguan Qingcheng's anxious voice came out from the crowd. Shangguan Mei Yang looked over, only to see the crowd split apart, and Ao Wushuang and Shangguan Qingcheng walked over quickly. Shangguan Qingcheng's face was anxious, and her eyes revealed a hint of fear. On the other hand, Ao Wushuang was extremely solemn, although his eyes were filled with concern. The countless of gigantic swords around him caused his eyes to be filled with even more shock and worry. Father, Mother, I'm here, I'm fine. Shangguan Mei Yang anxiously stood up and shouted. The two of them hurriedly walked over. Shangguan Qingcheng ran over and hugged Shangguan Mei Yang tightly. She took a deep breath. Seeing that her daughter was fine, her worried heart finally calmed down. It's good that you're fine. It's good that you're fine. Mother, although I'm fine, but Qinger is injured. Father, can you save Qinger? Shangguan Mei Yang looked at Ao Wushuang. Her face was still somewhat unnatural, and her voice was somewhat weak. Although Shangguan Qingcheng had told her that the immortal in front of her was her father, but after so long, she still found it hard to accept the sudden appearance of her father. Ao Wushuang stared at Qinger for a while, his eyes revealing traces of concentration, but then he bellowed, Ku Feng. Ji Zun. A middle-aged lady walked out from the crowd. The qi in her body is in a mess, it is rampaging through her meridians. It must be because she was disturbed during cultivation. After dragging on for so long, the qi is already close to her heart. Quickly bring her down, stabilize her qi, and treat her, quickly. Ao Wushuang bellowed. The Peerless sect expert named Ku Feng did not dare to delay, and immediately bellowed, Yes, Ji Zun. With that, the middle-aged lady immediately walked over, carried Qinger, turned around, and disappeared in the air. Ao Wushuang looked at the direction that the lady left, then turned around and stared at Shangguan Mei Yang. Yanger, tell me, what exactly happened here? His voice was deep and his expression was unprecedentedly serious. Chapter 10:26. Hearing Ao Wushuang's question, Shangguan Mei Yang started to stammer. She wanted to tell him the truth, but Su Yun had warned her before he left. How could she just say it like that? If not for Su Yun, she would have lost her life. Strictly speaking, Su Yun was also her savior. She did not want to repay his kindness with enmity. These swords are all realm illusionary swords. At this time, an old man walked to the front of the huge sword and stared at it. The experts of the Peerless sect were all shocked by the sight of the gigantic sword, especially the immortal experts who were being suppressed under the gigantic sword. Their pitiful looks were like needles that pierced into their vision. This kind of purgatory scene was probably something that many immortals had never seen before. This time, many people would probably never forget it for the rest of their lives. Ao Wushuang retracted his gaze. Seeing that Shangguan Meiyang was unwilling to speak, he frowned slightly. He walked to the front of the huge sword and reached out to caress it. Realm illusionary swords? This is a kind of supreme realm of the sword Tao. It requires the strength of the spirit god realm, combined with the supreme understanding of the sword Tao, to be able to activate this kind of sword that uses immortal qi to materialize. The person who activated these swords is a spirit god realm sword Tao saint? Ao Wushuang said. In the entire immortal world, how many spirit god realm sword Tao experts were there? There were only a few famous existences, and they could be counted on one hand. It couldn't be them, right? That's right. The old man nodded and said, every sword here is different. From this, it can be seen that this person is good at using swords. His sword Tao realm, I'm afraid it's hard for us to understand. Why would such a capable person come to my Peerless sect? Ao Wushuang's face was especially ugly. He took 2 steps forward and suddenly turned his gaze, as if he had seen something. He hurriedly took a few steps forward and crouched down. Over there was a pool of dazzling blood stains. On top of this blood stain, there was a large number of pieces of meat. These pieces of meat were wrapped in golden armor. The blood did not stain the armor. Under the light, the armor was especially eye-catching. Ao Wushuang picked up a piece of minced meat that looked like a hand and looked at it solemnly. The old man walked over and took a curious look. However, with just one look, he cried out involuntarily, "Ah! This is..." Everyone was very curious when they saw the appearance of the old man. Shangguan Qingqing asked curiously, "Elder Qing, what's wrong? What's so different about this dismembered corpse?" The old man called Old Qing opened his mouth, and only then did he take a deep breath. In a low voice, he said, "It's different. So different. This dismembered corpse was not the corpse of an ordinary immortal. It's the corpse of a powerful being." Shangguan Qingqing was startled. "Whose corpse?" "Golden Armor Force Saint." Without waiting for Elder Qing to speak, Ao Wushuang, who was holding his broken arm, said solemnly. As soon as he said that, the people of the Peerless sect all gasped in surprise. Golden Armor Force Saint? This is his corpse? Doesn't that mean the Golden Armor Force Saint is dead? He's actually going to die here? How is this possible? How could such a powerful being die? Elder Qing, Supreme, could you have made a mistake? That was a famous figure in the immortal world. His divine power was comparable to the heavens, and his body was close to immortal. How could such a powerful being die? The surrounding people gasped and questioned. Almost no one would immediately believe that this was the Golden Armor Force Saint they heard about. There's no mistaking it. Elder Qing sighed and said in a deep voice, "The armor wrapped around the corpse is the golden armor of 100 battles worn by the Golden Armor Saint. The Golden Armor Force Saint is made from 100 types of battle qi and heaven and earth black iron, and the battle armor contains 100 types of qi. This kind of treasure can be said to be unique in the immortal world, and I can confirm it with just one look. Moreover, this dismembered corpse contains a huge amount of energy that cannot be dispersed. If this is not the Golden Armor Force Saint, then who could it be?" As soon as Elder Qing said that, the entire hall went silent. Golden Armor Force Saint. This person? Could it really be the Golden Armor Force Saint? If that's the case, Then, who killed him? Who had the means to dismember his corpse? Even his body could not be found, only some minced flesh and broken limbs could be found. The twisting strength of this arm even tore apart his armor. If I'm not wrong, the existence that killed the Golden Armor Force Saint was also a powerful being. His strength might have completely crushed the Golden Armor Force Saint. Ao Wushwang said in a low voice. He said it very depressingly, and the people who heard it felt pressured. The mighty Golden Armored Force Sage, a famous great immortal, had died here for no apparent reason. There wasn't even a complete corpse, let alone a soul. No one would believe such a horrifying thing even if they told others about it. Yang Ao Wushwang threw away the arm, stood up, and called out to Shangguan Mei Yang. Shangguan Mei Yang's body trembled as she looked up at Ao Wushwang and said softly, "Father, what can I do for you? Who is that powerful being? Were all these people killed by that powerful being? Why are you and Qing safe and sound? Do you know that powerful being?" Ao Wushwang asked in a low voice. This, Shangguan Mei Yang continued to stammer and stammer. Ao Wushwang frowned and said in a low voice, "Yang what's wrong? Is it inconvenient for you to tell father?" Yes. Shangguan Mei Yang lowered her cute little head and said softly, "Father, that person told Yang not to tell anyone about him before he left. At the same time, he also hoped that father wouldn't tell anyone about what happened here, and just treat it as if he had never been here." Oh? Ao Wushwang listened and fell into deep thought. It seems like the other party doesn't want to cause any unnecessary trouble. Elder Qing said. Of course. Ao Wushwang came back to his senses and said in a low voice, "To be able to kill the Golden Armor Force Saint so easily, he must be an extraordinary person. Our peerless sect cannot afford to offend him. Since he is Yang Er's friend, he is also a friend of our peerless sect. Since he said to treat it as if it never happened, then don't mention it again. Give the order to seal off the news here, and don't mention it to anyone." All right. Elder Qing nodded and looked at the immortals who were suppressed by the swords and asked, "Sovereign, what should we do with these people? Bring them back and interrogate them properly. Ask them who they are." Yes. A few experts of the peerless sect walked straight towards the giant swords. They approached the giant swords and were about to cast a spell to pull them out. However, just as they were about to make their move, all the giant swords suddenly blossomed with a blazing light, and a terrifying aura of destruction emerged from the swords. Ao Wushwang's face changed when he smelled this aura, and he hurriedly shouted, "Everyone, disperse, quickly!" The people reacted quickly and immediately retreated. Suddenly, a series of rustling noises could be heard in this area, and all those glowing swords were shattered into tiny pieces, falling down. The ground shook violently for a while and then calmed down. The people hurriedly activated their defensive magic treasures and spells, afraid that they would be injured by this sudden change. However, when everything calmed down, the people realized that they were not injured at all, and that the turbulence did not spread here at all. They hurriedly looked over there, and the scene in front of them immediately shocked everyone. The immortals who were suppressed by the giant swords were now all dead. The giant swords exploded into thousands of tiny swords, piercing through the ground, dispersing the clouds and blasting out a completely empty area. As for the immortals, they were all shattered, completely dead, and even their souls were shattered. Ao Wushwang's face tightened. He knew what was going on. Could it be that the Almighty was worried that these existences would leak his information, so he did this? Elder Qing looked around and said, "But I can't feel any other aura here at all. How did the Almighty do it?" Ao Wushwang thought for a while and said in a deep voice, "No matter how he did it, he is now our friend. Don't leak a word about what happened here, or else, no matter who it is, we will kill without mercy." As soon as he finished speaking, he paced back and forth for a while, then turned around and directly walked out. Everyone's hearts were filled with doubt and shock,
but no one could answer even though they were confused. Shangguan Qingqing hugged Shangguan Meiyang. She looked at the leaving Ao Wushuang, then at the pale-faced Shangguan Meiyang in her arms, and sighed heavily. Yang mother, let me ask you, will that person hurt you? Shangguan Qingqing asked seriously. Shangguan Meiyang was stunned for a while, then hurriedly shook her head. He is a good person. He definitely won't hurt me. Good person? Shangguan Qingqing looked at the miserable scene, unable to imagine that the person who caused all this could be a good person. Suddenly, a figure flashed in Shangguan Qingqing's mind. That guy, his style is quite similar to this. Shangguan Qingqing murmured. But does he have such a method? To be able to easily kill so many immortals, and to be able to wipe out the golden armor Force Saint, an existence that even Wushuang feared, he shouldn't be able to do it, right? Shangguan Qingqing thought. She raised her head and looked around, then asked, Oh right, Mei Yang, previously when Su Yun came to Peerless Sect, after the chaos started, I didn't see him. Did he come here? Ah. He didn't come. Shangguan Meiyang quickly said, but her voice was clearly stuttering. Didn't come? How is that possible? If something happened with his personality, he would definitely come here. The suspicion in Shangguan Qingqing's eyes grew stronger, but seeing her daughter's distressed look, she chose not to ask further. Maybe many things were different from what she saw. Chapter 10:27. Su Yun could tell with a glance that Qing'er's injuries were not much of a problem. Just as he was about to leave, he felt the aura of Ao Wushuang and the rest approaching, so he did not dare to stay any longer. With Ao Wushuang and the rest of the experts from the Peerless Sect around, Qing'er's injuries would definitely not be a problem. On the other hand, he had used the Demon Saint's soul power, so if he were to stay, he was afraid that it would cause an extremely complicated situation. So in order to avoid trouble, he could only leave early. Once the power of the Devil Saint's Devil Soul was activated, the Devil Qi would soar into the sky. It was impossible to deliberately hide it during battle, but now it could be done. However, before he left, he also took the armored man who had already been taken off his human stick with him. Su Yun walked extremely quickly. How terrifying was his cultivation in the Devil Saint's Devil Soul state. He used all of his power to suppress his aura, and ordinary immortals would not be able to sense his existence. Su Yun sped all the way. With this cultivation, he actually managed to rush into the Immortal Seeking Sect within an hour. After entering the Immortal Seeking Sect, he first used the Imperial Battle Robe to absorb all of the immortal power in the armored man's body. Under the peak state of the Spirit God, the divine power he used was even more terrifying and ferocious. Not to mention that the armored man was already at the end of his rope. Even if he was at his peak state, he would not be able to contend against this terrifying divine power. The armored man's immortal power was immediately sucked dry, and he no longer had any ability to resist. Su Yun removed the power of the Devil Saint's Devil Soul, and directly dragged him into the main hall. When the Round Demon and Xiang Yang heard the commotion, they immediately rushed to the main hall. When they saw the human stick on the ground, the two of them were stunned. Master, who is this person? The Round Demon asked with a frown. Xiang Yang, on the other hand, widened his eyes and circled around the stick. His eyes were filled with doubt at first, then confusion, and then shock. In the end, his whole body began to tremble, and his face was filled with fear. He pointed at the miserable human stick on the ground, his body trembling as he said with a trembling voice, This person's armor has 100 different auras. Master, this person, could he be the legendary golden armored saint? Legendary? It should be called a golden armored stick now. Su Yun sat on the chair and said. Hearing this, Xiang Yang was dumbfounded. The legendary golden armored Force Saint was an almighty being who could be said to be immortal and stronger than the heavens and earth. He was only the second in command of a half-immortal sect.
How could he have come into contact with such a legendary figure? He had only heard about the Golden Armor Force Saint from the mouths of some immortals. Such a person was most likely active in the supersects, but now he was lying miserably in a small half-immortal sect like the immortal-seeking sect. Xiang Yang felt a little dizzy. What he was seeing was like a dream. The person in front of him used to be a giant in his eyes, but now it was as if he had become a giant. Yuan Mo, go inform Wei Ming and have him come over personally. Just then, Su Yun opened his eyes, stared at the round demon and said, "Yes." The round demon cupped his fists and immediately retreated. Xiang Yang did not understand and looked at Su Yun strangely. "Master, why did you ask Master Wei Ming to come over for no reason? He's the second elder of the Dali Palace, so he must be extremely proficient in the Dali technique. Naturally, I need him," Su Yun said indifferently. Although he did not finish his words, and Xiang Yang did not quite understand, the Golden Armor Force Saint, who was on the verge of fainting, instantly understood Su Yun's plan. He tried his best to open his eyes, and stared at Su Yun, who was seated above, and gritted his teeth. "You? Who exactly are you? Why does even the Dali Palace have to listen to you? Who I am is not important. What's important is you. When I asked you before if you were willing to obediently tell me everything you know, maybe you wouldn't have ended up like this," Su Yun said indifferently. The Golden Armor Force Saint was startled for a moment, then shouted, "As long as you don't kill me, I am willing to tell you everything I know. I am willing to serve you. I will serve you. Please don't kill me. Don't kill me." He began to beg for mercy, his voice filled with misery. He had heard of the grand exquisite art before and knew how powerful it was. Anyone who faced the grand exquisite art would be completely transparent, unable to keep any secrets. Since that was the case, he might as well be straightforward and give an answer as soon as possible. That way, he might be able to find a chance of survival. "You want to pledge your loyalty to me?" Su Yun raised his head and looked at the Golden Armor Force Saint. Although the Golden Armor Force Saint's limbs were all broken, and he did not have any immortal force in his body, his cultivation was not damaged at all. His limbs were broken. As long as he used a technique, he would be able to grow them back after a period of time. As for the immortal force, he would be able to recover after some recuperation. If the Gold Armor Force Saint could rely on Su Yun, then without a doubt, Su Yun would have another powerful helper. This guy was not weak. To be able to sneak into the Peerless sect without a sound was already very impressive. His cultivation was also around the spirit profound God realm, and was extremely powerful. If Su Yun did not use the power of the Devil Saint Devil Spirit, he would not be able to subdue him. Yes, Master, I want to pledge my loyalty to you. Please give me a chance, can you? Master, I will definitely pledge my loyalty to you." The Golden Armor Force Saint was unable to stand up, and could only knock his head on the ground to show his sincerity. At that moment, in order to live, he had long abandoned all of his dignity. Hearing that, Su Yun started to think. The Golden Armor Force Saint was not someone like Xiang Yang and Xing Bai. His cultivation was even stronger, to the point that even Qin Qianlong and the Kuei Yang that he killed could not compare to him. It was just that this kind of existence was not easy to suppress. If he wanted to refine the heart-controlling pill for him to consume, he would have to consume even more blood essence and spend even more time to refine it. However, what Su Yun was worried about was not the problem with the heart-controlling pill, but the problem with the people. Although he had a huge amount of power now, but the majority of the immortal sects were obtained by him through forceful means. Those who sincerely followed him, excluding the people from the true devil realm, did not even make up 30%. This was a very dangerous ratio. If he continued to expand this resentful army, he would only harm himself in the end. It was not the first time Su Yun had considered such a situation, so what he did the most during this period of time was not to recruit scattered immortals, but to develop the sect, and at the same time to seek benefits for all the immortal sects, especially the few people in charge, Qin Qianlong, Wei Ming, Xing Bai and Xiang Yang. Xiang Yang was most likely already on Su Yun's side, and Xing Bai also had the intention to express his goodwill. As for Qin Qianlong and Wei Ming, they still needed time to get used to each other. However, if he could obtain the golden armor Force Saint, his strength would definitely rise to another level. Such a powerful immortal was comparable to an incredible immortal sect. Which sect do you belong to? Su Yun took a deep breath, freed himself from his thoughts, and asked. This lowly one has created a small power called the Golden Armor Palace. It does not belong to the immortal sects, it is just a power that this lowly one cultivates. Most of the people inside are rogue cultivators that are attached to this lowly one. With this lowly one's protection, they also provide convenience for this lowly one. The Golden Armor Force Saint hurriedly said. Is that so? How many people are there? Only a few hundred, and their cultivation is not considered high. Then why did you come to Peerless Sect? This. The Golden Armor Force Saint hesitated. Since you are not willing to say, I will not make things difficult for you. Wait for the people from Ling Long Palace to arrive. I believe you will not be able to hide any secrets from me. Su Yun's voice gradually turned cold. The Golden Armor Force Saint's entire body quivered. Even though he was very weak, he still used all his strength to shout, Master! Master, I will speak! I will speak! It was the people from the Path of Immortals who wanted me to do this. Path of Immortals? With that said, Xiang Yang, who was standing at the side, immediately exclaimed, Path of Immortals? Is it the branch sect of the Thousand Beyond Heavens, the Path of Immortals? Su Yun asked in a low voice. Why yes. It is the Path of Immortals that the Wang Xian dynasty controls. The Golden Armor Force Saint replied weakly. With that said, Xiang Yang felt as though he was struck by lightning, and his entire body froze on the spot. Path of Immortals. That is a sect that is even stronger than Ling Long Palace. Thousand Beyond Heavens is a super sect that is even stronger than Peerless Sect. This kind of sect. What is it trying to do? Xiang Yang felt that his voice was trembling. He was not surprised at the relationship between the Gold Armor Force Saint and the two powerful sects, but at the fact that Su Yun had captured the Gold Armor Force Saint, didn't that mean that he had offended the two big sects? The people from the Path of Immortals sent you to capture the body of a deity? Why? Is the Wang Xian dynasty also interested in the body of a deity? Su Yun said indifferently. Wang Xianchao is only the sect leader of the Road to Immortality, and the Road to Immortality is just a subsect under the Qianweishan. Technically, it is under the control of the Qianweishan, but in reality, Wang Xianchao is just following orders. As for whose orders, I don't know. However, Wang Xianchao doesn't want to attract too much attention. Coincidentally, I'm a right-hand man in the Road to Immortality, so Wang Xianchao found me, hoping that I can help him obtain the body of a deity and present it to the main sect. So, those immortals from before are all from the Path of Immortals? No, they should be experts from various sects. The Golden Armor Force Saint replied weakly. Various sects? Su Yun's face tensed up. Why? There are more than just the Path of Immortals involved? There are many other sects? The Golden Armor Force Saint was silent for a moment, then replied softly, Yes. His words were like a needle falling into the quiet room, after a long time. Oh. Su Yun grunted, then fell silent again. If that was the case, then the situation was not as simple as he had imagined, although they are from different sects, but I do not know which sects they are from. In fact, this operation is being carried out by many sections. I am merely a representative of the Path of Immortals, participating in this
Seeing the silence in the main hall, the Golden Armor Force Saint felt uncomfortable and spoke again. After he finished speaking, the main hall remained silent for a long time. Chapter 10:28. If they could not do it in the open, then they would do it in the dark. Previously, when the various great celestial sects were pressuring the Peerless sect to hand over Ching they were doing it in the open. But now they were doing it in the dark. No wonder those immortals wore different clothes and had different techniques. Turned out that they came from different immortal sections. There was more than one enemy. Aren't those immortal sects working for the 1,000 beyond heavens? I don't know much. It said that it's just a cooperative relationship. There's only one God Spirit's body. Why would so many sects work together? After obtaining the divine body, how are we going to split it? Su Yun frowned. This lowly one doesn't know. If you fail this time, what will Wang Xianchao do next? I don't know. I'm not a follower of Wang Xianchao. I'm just a follower who wants to learn some cultivation insights from Wang Xianchao so that I can break through the bottleneck in my cultivation. This time, it's also because Wang Xianchao promised me some benefit. Otherwise, I wouldn't have participated in this. Wang Xianchao wouldn't tell me too much, so what I know is really limited, the Golden Armor Force Saint said hurriedly. But with that said, Su Yun snorted. Don't lie in front of me, benefits? I think you're most likely here for the divine body. Don't get it wrong. Even if you get the body of a deity, I'm afraid you won't be able to enjoy it. Although I've never met Wang Xianchao, I have some understanding of him. He isn't a fool. He has already placed a mark on your body. Even if you escape to the ends of the world, he will still be able to find you easily. The Golden Armored Force Saint's expression changed drastically. But you don't have to worry. I've already removed the imprint. It's your arms. Now, Wang Xianchao has completely lost track of you. Through the imprint, he can only sense that you're in Peerless sect. Perhaps it won't be long before he thinks that you've died in Peerless sect. Hearing that, the Golden Armor Force Saint did not say anything else. Su Yun stood up from his chair and slowly walked to the front of the Gold Armor Mighty Saint, and looked at him indifferently. The Gold Armor Force Saint held his breath. He stared at Su Yun with his eyes wide open, not daring to make a sound. You want to live? At this moment, Su Yun spoke. Yes, sir, as long as you don't kill me. I will do anything you want me to do. Sir, I'll do anything you want me to do. The Golden Armor Force Saint shouted frantically. His voice was hoarse, and he spoke so quickly that it seemed like he was about to die. Since that's the case, it's simple. Su Yun squatted down and used his pale hands to caress the Gold Armor Force Saint's ferocious face, and said indifferently, Now that Wang Xianchao is certain that you've died in the Peerless sect, I hope that from today onwards, the immortal world will no longer have a Gold Armor Force Saint, and my immortal seeking sect will have another nameless expert. What do you think? All right. The Golden Armored Force Saint said without hesitation. Immediately inform Octagon Aniseed to prepare the ingredient. I want to refine a special heart-controlling pill for him. Su Yun stood up and said to Xiang Yang. Xiang Yang hurriedly cupped his fists and left. Heart control pill? The Golden Armor Force Saint was stunned. That's right, heart control pill. Su Yun stared at him coldly and said, From today onwards, your life is in my hands. I will heal your limbs, but your face will be completely taken away. From today onwards, you will be called Faceless, and you will be the protector of the immortal seeking sect. You will be my personal guard. If I want you to go east, you will go east. If I want you to go west, you will go west. The Golden Armor Force Saint was stunned. However, reality did not allow him to refute, and did not care if he was willing or not. If he wanted to live, other than working for Su Yun, there was no other way. The golden armor force saint was also a smart man. Since he had already fallen into Su Yun's hands, other than accepting his fate, there was no other way. Your subordinate obeys. Hearing that, Su Yun took a deep breath. With the golden armor force saint, his strength would increase by another level. With such an expert joining the immortal seeking sect, the immortal seeking sect's strength would also grow. The current immortal seeking sect had long surpassed the low-level immortal sections. Ordinary immortal sects were no match for the immortal seeking sect. However, the rapidly developing immortal seeking sect was still advancing. Thump, thump, thump. At this time, clear footsteps sounded from outside the house, and two voices sounded out in unison. Round Demon, Wei Ming, requests an audience. Come in, Su Yun said calmly. The two of them immediately entered the house. Wei Ming knelt in front of Su Yun, lowered his head and said, Wei Ming greets Master. No need to be so polite. Stand up and talk. Thank you, my lord. Wei Ming stood up and secretly glanced at the human stick on the ground from the corner of his eyes. Bewilderment appeared in his eyes, and when he looked at it 3 more times, his expression changed as if he had thought of something. Wei Ming, use your grand exquisite art to probe everything about him for me. Su Yun pointed to the gold armor force saint on the ground and said. Since he had already reached this step, there was no need to hold back. He wanted to know everything that the gold armor force saint thought and knew. If the gold armor force saint had the slightest bit of ill intentions, he would kill him without hesitation and devour his soul. Hearing that, Wei Ming did not dare delay and immediately used his grand exquisite art. Facing Wei Ming's technique, the gold armor force saint did not dare to resist and allowed him to use his technique. Once the technique was used, Wei Ming immediately confirmed his thoughts. He was shocked and shocked. This person was indeed the gold armor force saint. And the gold armor force saint also understood in that instant, as long as he had the grand exquisite art, he would never dare to betray this person. In the quiet and tranquil land of clouds, inside a pavilion built in the clouds, more than 10 immortals dressed in luxurious clothes were gathered together. They surrounded a table and sat quietly. Among these people, there were men and women, old and young. However, there was quite a bit of distance between each person. Everyone's clothing was also quite different. At this moment, everyone's gaze was focused on a middle-aged man standing at the door. This man had a goatee and jet-black hair, but he looked very old. At this moment, he was speaking calmly. The plan has failed. All the people that you sent have been annihilated. Not a single one returned alive. The Peerless sect has been alerted. I believe that it will not be easy for us to take action against the Peerless sect in the future. After the middle-aged man finished speaking, he directly walked in. Oh? Completely annihilated? The people from the Peerless sect are very alert. Such a flawless plan was actually discovered by them. A young man said indifferently. The Peerless sect's strength is naturally not to be underestimated. However, with so many sects, how could they not be able to deal with a small Peerless sect? Isn't this a little abnormal? If everything went according to plan, this God Spirit body would have long left the Peerless sect. Go according to plan? Sect leader Zhang, you are diligent and down-to-earth, working wholeheartedly with everyone. However, some people may not be the same. If everything went according to plan, there would be no problems. However, this plan has been changed by some people. At this moment, a strange voice rang out. Everyone looked towards the direction of the voice and saw a man with fair skin and a charming posture sitting in the middle of the right side. His voice was unusually sharp, and when he spoke, he had a fake smile on his face. As he spoke, his eyes would occasionally glance at the middle-aged man who had just walked in. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone's expression changed. The Almighty who sat at the front of the table with almost no aura frowned. He stared at the eccentric man and said calmly,
Master Tongtsu. If you have something to say, just say it. Don't beat around the bush. Ayaya, yes, Alliance leader. The strange man chuckled, then stood up and glanced at the middle-aged man. With his hands on his hips, he shouted, Sect leader Wang Xianchao, let me ask you. Is the person sent by the path of immortality for this operation the Golden Armor Force Saint? Everyone's expression changed. The middle-aged man, named Wang Xianchao, also frowned. The Golden Armor Force Saint is not from the path of immortality. Master Tong Chu, what are you talking about? Why don't I understand? Sect leader Wang, stop pretending. I know everything. Haha, we've only sent our own disciples. Everyone has come to an agreement that the disciples from each sect will compete fairly. Whoever gets the Divine Spirit's body, the Divine Spirit's body will belong to them. However, there are some people who have secretly sent their almighties over. If the Golden Armor Saint is involved, I'm afraid that once the Divine Spirit's body is snatched from the Peerless sect, it won't be long before he has to enter the path of immortality, right? The eccentric person said in a strange tone. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone's eyes focused on Wang Xianchao. If that was the case, things would be different. Although the crowd did not speak, the meaning in their eyes was getting deeper. Sect leader Wang, is what Master Tong Chu said true? This time, you sent the Golden Armor Force Saint? The Almighty being asked in a deep voice. No. Wang Xianchao replied without hesitation. Who did you send from the path of immortality? Just an ordinary disciple. What nonsense. My men saw the Golden Armor Force Saint enter the Peerless sect with their treasures. However, no one from the path of immortality entered. If the Golden Armor Force Saint isn't from the path of immortality, who else could he be? Master Tong Chu, there must be evidence for everything. How would the path of immortality dare to break the alliance agreement and ignore the rules set by everyone? Won't you know whether I did it or not? The path of immortality has always been doing the right thing. These words should come from the mouth of a demon, not an immortal. Is that so? All right, stop arguing. Just as the eccentric man and Wang Xianchao were still arguing, the Almighty Being at the top shouted. As soon as he finished speaking, the room fell silent. The Almighty Being took a glance and nodded. His eyes were deep. Now is not the time to argue about this. Everyone is gathered here for the body of a deity. However, our first mission has failed, and we have alarmed the Peerless sect. I'm afraid Ao Wushuang is already wary, and it will be harder for the Peerless sect to break in. What we need to do now is not to argue, but to think of a way to deal with the Peerless sect. To seize the body of a deity. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone stared at the Almighty Being. Do you have any ideas, sir? The eccentric man called Tong Chu asked hurriedly. There are many ways, the Almighty Being said as he pondered. Chapter 10:29. News of what happened to the Peerless sect spread like wildfire. Some of the celestial sects that were on good terms with the Peerless sect came to offer their condolences or help. However, Ao Wushuang didn't reveal the entire matter. He didn't mention a word about the Golden Armor Saint. He simply claimed that it was a minor disturbance, so much so that the Immortal Court only sent someone over to conduct a simple investigation before the matter was settled. In fact, it wasn't that Ao Wushuang didn't want to use the power of the Immortal Court to protect himself, but the Immortal Court had no time to care about the small conflicts in the immortal world. As long as the situation wasn't too serious and didn't cause too much impact, the Immortal Court would choose to go through the formalities and deal with it perfunctorily. Because they were already flustered by the commotion at the gate to the immortal realm, they no longer had the time to care about anything else. The Immortal Court represented the justice of the immortal world. It was the rule of the immortal world. The immortal world had been peaceful all these years because of the deterrence of the immortal court. If the immortal court was held back by other existences, then there would be a loophole in the rules. Many people could imagine the consequences. However, what they were more concerned about was holding back the people from the immortal court. What kind of means was needed to turn the immortal court, which represented the highest authority in the immortal world, into such a state? No one knew, but many people could vaguely feel that an unavoidable upheaval was coming. This upheaval would not only affect the immortal world, but the entire universe. More and more rogue cultivators were gathering around the peerless sect, and more people were being discovered. Su Yun paid close attention to the movements of the peerless sect every day. He believed that after the peerless sect was defeated, they would definitely make a comeback, so Qing Er's current situation was not that safe. The peerless sect was filled with Su Yun's spies. Other than that, Su Yun had arranged for a disciple to be a spy in many other sects' encampments in the immortal world. He had already obtained a lot of information about the path of immortals from the Golden Armor Force Saint. This time, with Wang Xian's participation, Ao Wushuang's protection of Qing would be extremely strenuous. If the main sect of the Path of Immortals, Thousand Beyond Heavens, were to get involved, then the peerless sect alone would not be able to protect Qing. Although the Golden Armor Force Saint did not know what sects they were, he revealed a shocking piece of news to Su Yun. Immediately, dozens of celestial sects formed an alliance in order to obtain the body of a god. This operation was initiated by this alliance. When Su Yun received the news, he did not say a word for 2 whole days. It was only on the 3rd day that he came up with measures to monitor the movements of all the immortal sects in the immortal world. At the same time, he focused on the path of immortals. In the main hall, Su Yun summoned the Round Demon and Xiang Yang. When the two of them entered the palace, Xiang Yang began to report to Su Yun about the current situation at the gate to the immortal realm. The people of the immortal court have already taken measures. They have decided to temporarily close the gate of the immortal realm. They will investigate the cause and effect of this incident and the mastermind. Once they have caught the mastermind and punished him, they will reopen the gate of the immortal realm. He lowered his head and said to the sun, I heard that the people of the immortal court had also planned to seal the gate of the immortal realm with a barrier, but they failed. There were many immortals hidden among those who broke into the immortal realm. Those guys might be immortals. They had used magic to break the barrier of the people of the immortal court, so it's definitely inappropriate to seal the gate of the immortal realm with a barrier. But other than that, do they have any other methods? Su Yun asked. The methods of the immortal court are not something that we can imagine. This time, the people of the immortal court have taken out an ancient boulder, and there is an ancient array engraved on the boulder. The power of this ancient array is not something that we immortals can imagine, and once the ancient array is successfully activated, the gate to the immortal realm will be sealed, and the entire world will be separated from the immortal realm, and no matter what method we use, we will not be able to break this ancient array. I believe that they should be able to do it, Xiang Yang said. With that said, Su Yun's face changed. He turned his head to look at the Round Demon, and asked softly, If that's the case, Lord Yuan Mo, wouldn't that mean that we have completely cut off all contact with the true Devil Realm? That's right. The Round Demon nodded his head. Not only that, the supplies we provide to the true Devil Realm and the resources that the true Devil Realm provides us will also be cut off. The people of the Immortal Court will only remove the ancient formation after investigating this matter. Then, how long will it take? This subordinate does not know. Xiang Yang shook his head. Maybe it's very long, maybe it's very short. The people of the Immortal Court once investigated a case of sect extermination, and investigated for an entire 3,000 years. As for this time, I don't know how long it will take. Can't we open another secret passage to the myriad realms? The scope of the ancient formation is not only the celestial realm gate, but the entire celestial realm. Once it is activated, opening any secret passage will be useless. Su Yun frowned and thought for a long time. In the end, he sighed and felt that there was nothing he could do. He said helplessly, "Looks like I can only wait for the people of the Immortal Court to settle this matter before I can leave." Xiang Yang nodded and did not say anything else. The round demon cupped his fists and spoke. "Lord, the round demon has something to tell you." "What is it?" "Elder Yuan Mo, feel free to speak," Su Yun said. "It's about the cultivation of the people of the demon realm. Recently, a group of devil cultivators have reached a bottleneck in their cultivation, and if they want to break through, they will need to return to the true devil realm and enter the blood pool under the guidance of the eight-toothed sect leader. They will need to be cleansed before they can break through." The round demon said, "You can arrange this matter. I will inform Octagon Aniseed." Su Yun waved his hand and said, he had a lot of trust in the round demon, and he believed that the round demon knew this as well. "Yes." The round demon cupped his fists and no longer spoke. Xiang Yang stepped forward and said, "Lord, Xiang Yang just remembered that there is one more thing I need to report." "What is it?" "It's about the Immortal Gathering ceremony," Xiang Yang said seriously. "Immortal Gathering ceremony?" "Yes, every 7 years, a group of immortal sects will go to the Immortal Court to gather. Our Immortal Seeking sect is on the list, and according to the rules, we must go to the Immortal Court to follow the rules and acknowledge the dignity of the Immortal Court in the immortal world. If we do not go, we will be considered to be ignoring the Immortal Court and the laws of the immortal world," Xiang Yang said. "To the Immortal Court?" Su Yun frowned. "Does the Immortal Court still have time to do such things? Aren't they extremely busy right now? Perhaps they will be simple this time, but after all, it is related to the dignity of the Immortal Court. No matter what happens, they will not ignore it, so they still have to go this time," Xiang Yang said. Hearing that, Su Yun rubbed his chin and started to think. "Since that's the case, send an envoy. The gathering ceremony has been decided, and the sect leader needs to personally go. Is that so?" Su Yun thought for a moment, then said, "Speaking of which, the Immortal Seeking sect has changed sect leader, but no one knows about it. This is something that goes against common sense. This time, I will personally make a trip, and also use this opportunity to inform everyone that the current sect leader of the Immortal Seeking sect is a person called Su Yun." Hearing this, Xiang Yang immediately cupped his fist. "When is the day of the gathering?" 10 days later. My lord needs to leave in 5 days. My Immortal Seeking sect will take 5 days to travel to the Immortal Court." "All right, prepare yourself. 5 days later, you will follow me there. Leave everything here to the round demon." "Yes." The round demon immediately replied. The Peerless sect and the road to immortality, these two sects must be under strict control. Even if I go to the Immortal Court, if there is any movement, you must report to me immediately. Do you understand?" "Understood. Go down and prepare." "Oh right, let Faceless prepare. This time, he will also come with me." "Yes." Xiang Yang and the round demon bowed again and said in unison, "This subordinate will take his leave." With that, the two of them retreated. However, not long after the two of them left the main hall, a disciple of the Immortal Seeking sect ran in anxiously, knelt in front of Su Yun and shouted, "Reporting to sect leader, there is a woman outside requesting an audience." "Who is it?" "She said her name is Su Luluo, and she is sect leader's sister." The disciple raised his head and said, "Su Luluo?" Su Yun was startled. Why is she here? Why did he come to see her out of nowhere? Furthermore, she even claimed to be his sister. What was she thinking? Su Yun took a deep breath. His state of mind that had just calmed down became messy again because of Su Luluo's visit. After a moment, he said to the disciple, "Go and invite her in." "Yes." The disciple cupped his fists and immediately left.
Su Yun sat on the chair and sighed. Su Yun knew what Su Shintian and Shin Shueshua had done, but Su Luluo was innocent. Towards Su Luluo, Su Yun did not have much hatred, or rather, it was the same for Su Shintian and Shin Shueshua, but since there was no hatred, there was no love, it was just that they would be strangers in the future. Not long after the disciple left, he led a young girl dressed in goose-yellow clothes into the main hall. The young girl had red lips, white teeth, black hair, snow-white skin, a graceful and exquisite figure. She was extremely beautiful, and her temperament was even more outstanding. From afar, she gave off a holy and noble feeling that could not be tainted, as if she was a fairy from the ninth heaven, and could not be blasphemed. After Su Luluo left, the supreme sect had gradually disappeared into the dust of history, and after Su Luluo lost the limitless profound chi, she did not have much cultivation, but even so, her unique holy maiden temperament still lingered around her body. No matter where she was, she would not lose her beauty. This was an innate temperament, Big Brother. After entering the main hall, Su Luluo bowed to Su Yun in a serious manner, and then called out to him. The melodious voice was like the sound of spring water, causing people to feel relaxed and happy. But Su Yun was expressionless. Su Luluo? Big Brother, how have you been? Su Luluo smiled and said. Seeing the current Su Luluo, it was really hard for anyone to connect her with the indifferent and heartless Supreme Sect Holy Maiden. However, facing Su Luluo's enthusiasm, Su Yun did not have any emotions. He stared at Su Luluo and said indifferently, I am very good, but I am not your brother. Chapter 10:30. Facing Su Yun's words that sounded extremely hurtful, Su Luluo's smile froze for a moment, but quickly relaxed. The disciple retreated, leaving only Su Yun and Su Luluo in the main hall. The atmosphere was very subtle, but Su Luluo did not reveal any awkwardness. Although Big Brother is not willing to recognize Luluo in Luluo's heart, Big Brother is Big Brother, and you will always be Luluo's Big Brother. Why are you so serious? If there is no Big Brother, there will be no Luluo. You think that way, it's just to repay your kindness. In fact, there's no need at all. I just wanted to end things with all of you. I've already said it before. I have nothing to do with all of you. From today onwards, you can go your own way. I will go my own way. We don't need to have any more dealings. Su Yun said indifferently. His voice was still filled with a sense of rejection. Hearing that, Su Luluo pursed her tender lips and said softly, Big Brother, I know you have a lot of resentment towards father, mother and grandfather in your heart. I do not hope that you can forgive them, nor do I hope that they can have any connection with you, but no matter what, I want to tell you, Luluo will always treat you as a big brother. Even if you don't admit it, it doesn't matter, at least, Luluo will think so. She said it very seriously and very sincerely. Su Yun did not know what Su Luluo would be like after leaving the Supreme Divine Tao, nor did he know what her purpose for coming here was. But no matter what, Su Yun had already decided that he would not have anything to do with these people anymore. If you came here just to tell me this, then you can leave. Su Yun waved his hand and said indifferently, I still have things to take care of, I can't accompany you for long. Although Big Brother rejects Luluo, Luluo will not reject Big Brother. I believe that one day, Luluo will make Big Brother admit it. Su Luluo smiled, like a lily blooming. She bowed towards Su Yun, turned and walked out. Luluo has fallen deep into the Supreme Sect, although father and mother were unable to save Luluo, but all these years, they have suffered a lot. Brother is no longer the same as before, so Luluo is at ease, and will now accompany father and mother. If brother has anything that you need Luluo to do, you can send someone to Lord Hu Qing's sect to inform Luluo. With that said, Su Luluo walked out of the main hall. Although she didn't say much, there was some sincerity in every word she said. Su Yun could not understand Su Luluo's character, but in the time he was communicating with her, Su Yun realized that Su Luluo's eyes had always been staring at him,
and her eyes were blazing hot, like a red-hot piece of iron. Even if it was a bang, it would leave a mark. This fanaticism, what was going on? Forget it, I won't think about it anymore. No matter how I think about it, it's nothing more than that. Since I've already gotten rid of the relationship, I'll just leave it at that. Su Yun reorganized and recuperated in the Immortal Seeking sect, then brought a few experts of the Immortal Seeking sect and headed towards the Immortal Court with Xiang Yang and Faceless. The gold-armored Force Saint was given the name Faceless by Su Yun, so naturally his face was covered by a gray mask. At the same time, the 100 Battles golden armor on his body was taken off. The golden armor was already damaged, and its defensive capabilities were not as good as before, but its aura was still there, and if it was still worn, it would still be recognized by others. The current gold-armored Force Saint was only wearing an ordinary gray tight suit. To put it bluntly, the Immortal Court wanted these immortal sects to pay their respects to him and acknowledge the Immortal Court's position. That was all. If anyone was dissatisfied with the Immortal Court and did not go, the Immortal Court would directly eliminate them. In fact, this kind of thing was just something the Immortal Court did to comfort him. Even Su Yun was not sure if there was any meaning to it. On the way, there are a total of 59 immortal sects attending this gathering. 41 of them are ordinary small immortal sects, 7 are medium-sized immortal sects, and 2 are famous great immortal sects. One is the Pearl Palace, and the other is the Half-Leaf sect. In this gathering, most of the small immortal sects will be circling around these 2 immortal sects. Master, should we also establish some relations with these 2 immortal sects? Xiang Yang, who was at the side, cupped his fists and said to Su Yun, who was flying forward, "The Pearl Palace and the Half-Leaf sect? I've heard of these 2 sections. Although these 2 immortal sects are somewhat famous, their strength is not considered strong, right? Strictly speaking, they can only be considered medium-sized immortal sect. Adding the 2 together, I'm afraid they can't even compare to the Great Ling Long Palace. Later on, during the gathering, let's keep a low profile and not do anything useless. However, you can introduce me. That's all. After the gathering, return to the sect early. There are many matters to attend to and we can't delay." Su Yun said indifferently. Hearing this, Xiang Yang nodded and cupped his fists. "Yes, master." After Xiang Yang made the preparations, Su Yun naturally went over to deal with the situation. Of course, the most important thing was to let everyone know that the Immortal Seeking sect had changed masters. However, the matter of the Immortal Seeking sect changing masters was only spread among the small sections. The large sects would not care at all because in their eyes the Immortal Seeking sect was just a half-immortal sect. Some of the large sects had never even heard of the Immortal Seeking sect, so naturally they would not pay attention. Su Yun and the others flew forward. When they neared the Immortal Court, a huge sea of clouds appeared in their line of sight. Entering the sea of clouds, the surroundings were like a dream. It was very magical, and what was even more surprising was that in the sky, there was actually a 7-colored light flickering like a miracle. Su Yun was completely attracted by this miraculous scene, and found it difficult to shift his gaze away. He numbly flew forward, and after flying for less than half an incense stick of time, an extremely dignified and enormous platform appeared in his line of sight. These giant platforms were all lustrous white, simple and dignified, but they did not lose their holiness. The giant platforms were like floating objects, floating in the air. Some were up, some were down, some were big, some were empty, and there were dozens of immortals flying between these giant platforms. No one knew what they were doing. When they moved forward again, an unforgettable scene appeared before Su Yun. A gigantic palace. It was not an ordinary palace, but a fortress. It was like a palace that supported the heavens. It appeared in his line of sight. This palace was completely made of white jade. Not only was it exquisite, it was also incomparably huge. It pierced through the sky and stepped on the ground. He couldn't see the top of it, nor could he see the bottom of it. It just stood there, completely blocking the path in front of Su Yun. Such a huge building was already quite shocking, but on top of this huge palace, there were countless carvings, array seals, stage gates, spirit formations, and so on. And at the top of the palace, there were two indescribably huge words. Immortal Court. These two words emitted a seven-colored light. Even if one stood extremely far away, they could still clearly see these two words. In front of the huge gate of the Immortal Court, there were many immortals entering and exiting, making it seem rather lively. However, regardless of whether it was entering or leaving, all of the immortals kept a low profile. They came and went in a hurry, and even if they spoke, they would do so in a low voice, as if they were afraid of disturbing the solemnity of the place. Is this the Immortal Court? Su Yun looked into the distance and said with emotion, "It is indeed grand and imposing, with a myriad of phenomena. This is the representative of the immortal world's judiciary, so it naturally won't be too casual. In this huge immortal court, there are many supreme experts that we normally wouldn't even dare to think about. The reason why the Immortal Court dares to represent the judiciary of the immortal world, and can represent the judiciary of the immortal world, is not because the Immortal Court has always been fulfilling its duties, but because they have the ability. They have the power." Xiang Yang came over and whispered. Su Yun nodded, expressing his agreement. Xiang Yang led Su Yun towards the small door beside the main gate of the Immortal Court. Beside the main gate there were 5 smaller side doors, and one could see many people who had just reached the Spirit Profound Immortal Realm, or even those who had not reached the Spirit Profound Immortal Realm, entering through the side doors, and those who entered through the main door were all people with powerful cultivations or noble statuses. Seeing that, Su Yun found it funny. He had originally thought that the Immortal Court should be a fair and just place, but this side door told him that the Immortal Court was not completely fair and just. At least from this point of view, it still had the smell of the strong preying on the weak. On the other side of the door, there was a receptionist sent by the Immortal Court. Xiang Yang held the order badge and walked over. Seeing that, the receptionist immediately tapped a few times on a glowing board and shouted, "The people of the Immortal Seeking Sect have arrived, please head to the Law Hall to gather." Hearing that, Xiang Yang nodded to Su Yun and Xian led the way, straight towards the Discipline Hall. The interior of the Immortal Court was like a fortress with countless floors. Su Yun did not know what floor he was on, nor did he know if the floor was getting higher and higher, or if the floor was getting higher and higher, but what he could understand was that the Immortal Court he saw was only the tip of the iceberg. There didn't seem to be any immortals here, and the people he met on the way were all from the small immortal sect. When they arrived at the entrance of the Law Hall, the disciples that they brought all stood in front of the door and waited for the sect leader or the vice-sect leader to enter. The Law Hall was located behind a huge open space. The surroundings of this open space were actually hollowed out, and from inside one could see the clouds outside, so the light was extremely good. Faceless waited outside the door, while Su Yun and Xiang Yang walked straight in. When the two of them entered, they realized that there were already many immortals gathered in the Law Hall. Roughly estimating, there were close to 100 immortals, and it seemed like the other sect leaders were already in place. In the center of the Law Hall, there was a transparent pillar at the top, and under the pillar stood a white-haired, white-clothed man. The man held a scroll in his hand, and with one hand behind his back, he looked at the pillar, neither speaking nor moving, with an unfathomable look on his face. Xiang Yang introduced that this was an expert of the Immortal Court, and was extremely powerful. Although everyone present was a sect leader, their cultivation level was probably only that of a 3-year-old child in front of this person. This gathering was hosted by him. In order to intimidate the various sect leaders and display the strength of the Immortal Court usually sent immortals to host the gathering. They were all people who were not famous outside, but their strength was comparable to the famous experts of the immortal world. Su Yun stared at the white-clothed, white-haired man for a while, then retracted his gaze. After thinking for a moment, he re-examined the other sect leaders. The law hall was more lively than the outside, but it was only the sect leaders of the small immortal sects talking. The sect leaders of the Half-Leaf sect and the Chain Pearl Hall had not arrived yet, so the discussions became more casual. Su Yun and Xiang Yang walked to the seat that the people of the immortal court had arranged and sat down. Then, they closed their eyes and meditated, not saying a word. Xiang Yang had originally planned to introduce Su Yun to the other sects that had some relations with the immortal seeking sect, but seeing that Su Yun was habitually meditating, he could not greet him, and could only sit beside him and wait helplessly. At this moment, Xiang Yang did not hope to obtain any benefits for the immortal seeking sect or himself. He only hoped that he could return safely this time, but for some reason, he had a feeling that something would happen this time. Chapter 1031. Vice Sect Leader Yang, long time no see. How has your sect been recently? Just then, a voice floated over from the side. Su Yun and Xiang Yang looked towards the direction of the voice, and saw an old man dressed in a gray robe walking over with a walking stick. The old man's clothes were extremely simple. Even though his cultivation was extraordinary among these people, he seemed to keep an especially low profile. He did not try to curry favor with those celestial sects, nor did he intentionally try to show off. He only sat down or chatted with people he met. He walked to Su Yun and Xiang Yang's side, and immediately sat down, revealing a friendly smile towards the two of them. This person is Mr. Ho Shui Hall. Strictly speaking, Ho Shui Hall is not an immortal sect, but there are many rogue immortals who took Mr. Ho Shui as their master and established Ho Shui Hall. This Mr. Ho Shui treats people very well, no matter who it is. He teaches without discrimination, he does not curry favor with others, nor does he use his power to bully others, no matter who it is. He treats everyone equally, and in the past, his relationship with my immortal seeking sect was extremely friendly, and some of my immortal seeking sect's people have also been taught by him. Xiang Yang said to Su Yun, who was beside him. Hearing that, Su Yun immediately stood up and clasped his hands towards the old man. He did not admire those who were strong, but he admired those who were virtuous. In this world where the strong preyed on the weak, to be able to maintain such a virtue was extremely valuable. How could people not admire him? So it's Mr. Ho Shui. I am Su Yun, sorry for the disrespect. Hearing that, Mr. Ho Shui's dark eyes revealed suspicion. He sized Su Yun up, and nodded his head in praise. You are handsome, talented, and have an extraordinary bearing. I believe you are not an ordinary person. May I ask who you are? Mr. Ho Shui, this is my immortal seeking sect's new sect leader, Su Yun. Xiang Yang immediately introduced. Hearing that, Mr. Ho Shui was shocked. He immediately bowed and said, So it's sect leader Su. Ho Shui is blind. Sorry for the disrespect. Sorry for the disrespect. Seeing that, Su Yun immediately helped Ho Shui up. Mr. Ho Shui is too polite. You have never seen me before, so it is natural that you do not know me. Furthermore, I am just a small sect leader of the immortal seeking sect. I cannot afford to be like you. Just treat me like an ordinary person. Su Yun laughed. Ho Shui nodded his head and a smile appeared on his face. Sect leader Su is kind and friendly. If you become the sect leader, the immortal seeking sect will definitely rise. Ah! Ha ha! Su Yun laughed. Beside him, Xiang Yang secretly wiped the sweat off his forehead. Benevolence and righteousness? This guy was actually called benevolent and righteous. Ah, Hall Master Lien Zhu is here. Sect leader Half Leaf is here too. Long time no see, Hall Master Lien Zhu, ha ha. Sect leader Half Leaf, you've worked hard. Come, come, come. Sit down and rest. Hall Master Lianzhu, how have you been? Now that I know you will also come to the Immortal Court, I am very happy and looking forward to it. Right at this moment, a wave of noise sounded over. It turned out that the people from consecutive Pearl Hall and Half-Leaf Sect had arrived. When the sect leaders of the small immortal sects saw that the most important person had arrived, they immediately swarmed over and tried to get close to him. In fact, immortals were the same as humans. The only difference was that they had more tricks up their sleeves than humans. In the past, the people of these small immortal sects would never be able to come into contact with existences above the medium-sized immortal sects, because they were the lowest level of power in the immortal world and would not be paid attention to. Therefore, if they wanted to get to know a stronger existence and seek benefits for the sect, then this would be an excellent opportunity. No one would think that they were ashamed of themselves, because to them, the sect leader of these great immortal sects were incredible saints. If they could get help, even if it was just a little bit of guidance, it would benefit them greatly, and they would enjoy it for the rest of their lives. However, none of them went to Su Yun's side. Mr. Ho Shui sat there quietly, holding onto his walking stick as he looked at these people, while Su Yun closed his eyes and meditated. Xiang Yang wanted to stand up, but after looking at Su Yun, he obediently sat down. The person in front of the pillar had his eyes closed the entire time. He did not stop any of this, nor did he care about it. The entire hall was in a mess. These people surrounded the two sect leaders and chatted for a long time. Yes, I heard that the people from the Immortal Seeking sect have also arrived for this gathering ceremony. Where are the people from the Immortal Seeking sect? Come out and let me see. At this moment, a voice came out from the crowd. From the sound of it, it was the voice of Hall Master Lianzhu. To Xiang Yang, the three words Immortal Seeking Sect were too ear-piercing. He immediately looked towards the direction of the voice, only to see that the crowd had automatically split apart, and a few people were walking over. The middle-aged man wearing a pearl-white Blade Master robe walking in front was the Hall Master of the Linked Pearl Palace, Li Lianzhu, and beside him, the enchanting young woman was the sect leader of the Half-Leaf Sect. The Linked Pearl Palace and the Half-Leaf Sect were once rivals, but in recent years, they had unexpectedly reconciled and became allies. Now, the Linked Pearl Palace and the Half-Leaf Sect would carry out many big operations together. This caused many people to be bewildered. How did these two sects that were originally red in the face with each other suddenly reconcile? Li Lianzhu walked over with an arrogant expression, and finally stood in front of Xiang Yang. He glanced at Su Yun, and then questioned Xiang Yang, and said indifferently, "Vice Sect Leader Xiang Yang, how have you been recently? What? Is your sect leader not here? How can I not be present for the gathering ceremony? Otherwise, wouldn't it mean that my Immortal Seeking sect is ignoring the rules of the immortal arts?" Xiang Yang squeezed out a smile, and then stood up to introduce everyone. "As for my sect leader, he has already arrived, it's this one. This is the new sect leader of my Immortal Seeking sect. The old sect leader went to cultivate, so this is the new sect leader of my Immortal Seeking sect." As the sound of this fell, all the sect leaders present revealed looks of astonishment. Obviously, very few people knew about this news. Although the big sects did not care about the Immortal Seeking sect, these small sects had dealings with the Immortal Seeking sect, so the sect leader naturally knew about it. Unexpectedly, when Xiang Yang said this, it caused Hall Master Lianzhu to sneer. "Did you go berserk while cultivating? You make it sound so easy? Haha, I don't think that's the case, right?" Hall Master Lianzhu. "What do you mean?" Xiang Yang was stunned. "What do I mean?" Hall Master Lianzhu snorted, and said in a deep voice, "I heard that your Immortal Seeking sect has formed an alliance with Carefree Palace, right? This, the Immortal Seeking sect is just a half-immortal sect. What about Carefree Palace? What kind of sect is that? That's a large immortal sect. A large immortal sect forming an alliance with a half-immortal sect? Is that possible? And at this critical juncture, the immortal-seeking sect leader suddenly died. Isn't this too suspicious? Hall Master Lien Zhu said in a deep voice. Although his words were very tactful, the meaning behind his words was very clear. Everyone's expression changed. Could it be that the immortal-seeking sect leader's death has another reason? It can't be such a coincidence. Could it be that the immortal-seeking sect has become a puppet sect of Carefree Palace? The sect leaders of the immortal sects whispered to each other. Although their voices were soft, how could these immortals not hear them? Xiang Yang immediately became anxious. He wanted to explain, but was stopped by Su Yun. He was startled. He looked at Su Yun, only to see that Su Yun had taken a step forward and stood in front of everyone, his eyes staring coldly at Hall Master Lien Zhu. The meaning behind your words is quite difficult to guess. Although your guess is well-founded, I still hope that you can restrain yourself a little. Don't say whatever you think in your heart. At least, you have to figure out what this place is. As Su Yun finished speaking, he had already shouted it out. This shout was like a thunderclap. Everyone's body trembled, and they were so scared that they almost couldn't stand steadily. This was the Immortal Court, and Su Yun was reminding him to pay attention to the rules. Framing an immortal sect and ruining its reputation was something that was stipulated in the rules of the Immortal Court, and there was also a corresponding punishment. Behind everyone, there was a member of the judiciary of the Immortal Court. Hall Master Lien Zhu snorted, adjusted his expression, and shouted again. I won't waste my breath with you. I came to find you to remind your immortal-seeking sect people. Reminder? That's right, a reminder. Hall Master Lien Zhu said solemnly. I don't know how your immortal-seeking sect managed to climb up to Carefree Palace, but I still want to tell you, it's best not to stand on the wrong side, otherwise, don't send the sect that you've painstakingly built up to the grave. With that, Hall Master Lien Zhu turned around and walked to the side. The group of people gathered for a moment before dispersing. Xiang Yang stared blankly at Hall Master Lien Zhu, his eyes still filled with doubt. He looked at Su Yun in confusion and asked, Sect leader, what exactly is going on? You can't ask me about that. Su Yun said indifferently, you have to ask Xing Bai. This was most likely caused by the Carefree Palace. The other party knew that the immortal-seeking sect was related to the Carefree Palace, so they vented their anger on the immortal-seeking sect. The strength of the Linked Pearl Hall and the Half-Leaf sect was not considered strong. Everyone thought that they were stronger than the immortal-seeking sect, but in reality, the current immortal-seeking sect was enough to take care of the Linked Pearl Hall and the Half-Leaf sect. As for the Carefree Palace, it would not take much effort to defeat these two immortal sects. However, as the leader of a few immortal sects, Su Yun naturally had to understand all of this. After the gathering, he still had to properly interrogate Xing Bai. He did not wish for the people in charge of the immortal sects that he controlled to have any tricks up their sleeve. If that was the case, he would be very unhappy. Just as the crowd dispersed and took their seats, it was time for the ceremony to begin. Everyone had arrived, and the ceremony was about to begin. Everyone stopped whispering and chatting, and the hall regained its solemnity and silence once again. The white-robed, white-haired man standing in front of the pillar opened his eyes. What made people's hearts jump was that his pupils were actually white. He opened his strange eyes and glanced at the immortal leaders present. Then, he opened his mouth and shouted in an extremely strange but extremely serious tone, Hey you guys, is there a grudge between us? As soon as he said that, everyone was stunned. Chapter 1032. Everyone looked at each other, not understanding what this person meant. Even Su Yun did not understand the meaning behind his words. The white-clothed, white-haired man frowned, and with a rather serious voice, he shouted again, Let me ask you, is there a grudge between you? Seeing the white-clothed, white-haired man's attitude, everyone's hearts tensed up. How could they dare to make a sound? Could it be that he was angry because of the noise from before? Although these people were afraid, there were some who were not, such as Mr. Ho Shui, who was sitting beside Su Yun. "Master, what do you mean by that? Please speak frankly." Mr. Ho Shui spoke directly. His voice was neither servile nor overbearing, and there was no trace of nervousness or fear on his face. The white-clothed, white-haired man turned his gaze to Ho Shui, staring at him with his bright eyes for a while, then said indifferently, "My name is Bai Ji. You don't have to be too polite. As for what I said just now, you don't have to think too much about it. I just want to use this opportunity to tell you all about a new immortal rule that the Immortal Court has introduced." A new immortal rule? Everyone was suspicious. Yes, a new immortal rule. Bai Ji said indifferently. "I will first tell you all that you are the first batch of people to know about this immortal rule, and then the Immortal Court will follow the procedure to inform every sect and rogue cultivator in the immortal world. The immortal rule was personally set by the chief judge, and in the immortal world, if there is any grudge between the immortal sects that cannot be mediated, it can be resolved through force, and under the witness of both sides can engage in a fair duel under the witness of the Immortal Court, to resolve the grudge between the two immortal sects, and before the duel, the two immortal sects can set their own requirements and promises, and this will be judged and acknowledged by the people of the Immortal Court. If any of you have any grudges against others, you can apply for a duel with me." "Duel?" Cries of surprise could be heard. As soon as Bai Ji said this, the crowd immediately went into an uproar. Everyone whispered to each other, discussing something. If one side refuses, then the duel cannot continue? At this time, Mr. Ho Shui asked again. "Yes." Bai Ji nodded his head. "We will not set up a forced duel. That would be unfair to the weak immortal sect." "If that's the case, then isn't this celestial rule just a decoration? However, if someone were to issue a duel and was rejected by the other party, then that immortal sect would have the authority to announce this matter to the entire Immortal Court." Bai Ji added. This sentence made many of the sect leaders present frown and frown. If they refused the duel, the other party would have the right to announce to the entire Immortal Court that they refused the duel. Wouldn't that be a loss of face? This way, he would lose if he refused. So that's how it is. The people of the Immortal Court are indeed the people of the Immortal Court. If that's the case, the sects in the immortal world would abide by their own rules and wouldn't dare to act recklessly. Otherwise, if the other party challenged them to a duel and they refused because they couldn't defeat them, it would be a great humiliation for them. Su Yun said softly. Xiang Yang nodded in agreement. Once this rule was implemented, the chaos in the immortal world would probably be improved correspondingly. Lord Bai Ji, I'd like to ask, if you challenge a sect, are there any rules regarding the challenger? At this moment, Palace Master Lien Zhu suddenly stood up and cupped his fists. Bai Ji shifted his gaze over. Xian Er shook her head. There are no rules. Anyone in the sect can participate, but you have to note that it must be a member of the sect. As for the number of people, each side can only have a maximum of 100 people, and at least one person. Is that so? That's not bad. Once this rule is introduced, I will definitely support it. Palace Master Lien Zhu cupped his fists and laughed, but his eyes unconsciously looked towards Xiang Yang and Su Yun. Bai Ji nodded and did not continue on this topic. Instead, he waved his hand and said loudly, "All right everyone, the time has come. Now, let's start the ceremony." With that said, the huge pillar behind him suddenly released a circle of golden light, and one by one, golden words appeared on the pillar. Those were the rules set by the Immortal Court. After the previous chaos, the Peerless sect had already regained its peace. However, the current Peerless sect was much more nervous and serious than before. All the disciples inside and outside the sect were on high alert. If the Immortal Court did not withdraw from the gate of the immortal world, the peerless sect would not be safe. What kind of organization was the Immortal Court? It was believed that the immortals with some experience in the immortal world would know that such a powerful organization had the support of half of the immortal sects in the immortal world. However, to hold such an organization back, let's not talk about whether the other party was strong or not. Based on the current situation, the other party would not be able to hold the Immortal Court for too long. And if the time was not long, why would the other party continue to wait? Therefore, this period of time would be the most critical for the Peerless sect. In the main hall of the Peerless sect, Ao Wushuang and the higher-ups of the Peerless sect gathered together. This time, even Shangguan Qingqing was present. The atmosphere in the main hall was extremely solemn. Everyone had their heads lowered, as if they were deep in thought. Ao Wushuang, who was sitting at the top, also did not speak for a long time. Although Shangguan Qingqing's cultivation was not high, she focused on cultivating her mind, so her state of mind was not bad. Even though everyone present was an immortal, she did not feel uncomfortable at all. She still sat gracefully beside Ao Wushuang and quietly looked at everyone. Elder Qing. Ao Wushuang spoke. The old man sitting in the first row on the left immediately stood up and cupped his fists towards Ao Wushuang. Ji Zun. What's the situation outside now? Ao Wushuang said calmly. Reporting to Ji Zun, ever since you gave the order to seal the Peerless sect has been cleaned up by our elite. There are no longer any immortals in the area. The rogue cultivators who passed by have also been warned and took a detour. Not only that, the sect's defense system has also been upgraded. The boundaries, formations, imprints, and magical weapons have all been adjusted and set up. They can be activated at any time. If anything happens, the Peerless sect will become an impregnable fortress. No one will be able to break through it easily. Elder Qing said one by one. Everyone secretly nodded their heads. Only Elder Qing could properly handle these matters. However, as soon as Elder Qing finished speaking, a cold snort came from above. It made everyone's heart tremble and their bodies tremble. An impregnable fortress? Elder Qing, are these words really appropriate? Ao Wushuang's face was full of anger. Do you know where the chaos happened? Do you know how many disciples were guarding outside the Peerless sect? Do you know how many boundaries there were? Do you know how many small fries suddenly appeared in the Peerless sect? Do you know? The more Ao Wushuang spoke, the angrier he got. In the end, he suddenly stood up and slammed his palm on the jade platform beside him. Poof! The jade platform was directly smashed into pieces and turned into dust. When everyone saw this, they immediately stood up from their chairs and knelt on the ground. Ji Zun, please calm down. The cheers spread out. Ao Wushuang took a few deep breaths. His eyes were wide open. When he went to save Shangguan Meiyang, he was still suppressing his anger. However, now that everything was over, he felt more and more angry when he thought about what happened. Calm down. How else do you want me to calm down? Everyone treats the Peerless sect like nothing. They came and went as they pleased. How can I calm down? Ao Wushuang roared angrily. It has already been so long. Shouldn't you answer me now? How did those small fries enter the Peerless sect? He questioned loudly. The people below all lowered their heads and did not dare to raise their heads. Only Elder Qing dared to raise his head and speak. Reporting to Ji Zun, the other party used an extremely rare legacy treasure. This kind of legacy treasure does not allow for the installation of a legacy treasure. It can directly estimate the location and send people over. We really can't guard against this kind of legacy treasure. However, I believe that the other party definitely only has one such legacy treasure. There won't be a second one. Therefore, if they want to enter the Peerless sect again, I'm afraid it won't be that easy. It won't be that easy? Humph, I hope what you said is true. Then, let me ask you again. Who are the people who attacked the Peerless sect? This, Elder Qing hesitated. Some people's faces also became especially complicated. Ao Wushuang frowned and said in a deep voice, Why? Why aren't you speaking again? Could it be that you want me to investigate? Jizun, please calm down. Actually, the identity of these people. We have already investigated more or less. However, there are too many sects involved. Strictly speaking, the Peerless sect does not have the strength to deal with so many celestial sects. Therefore, even if we know, I'm afraid it won't help. Elder Qing raised his head, sighed, and said helplessly, There are too many sects involved? Ao Wushuang frowned. Which sects are involved? Immortal Soldier Camp, Jade Heart Sect, Xian Stepping on Cloud's Pavilion. Other than that, there's also Road of Immortality. Elder Qing listed one by one. There were more than 10 of them. As soon as he finished speaking, the main hall became silent. Everyone was still kneeling, but Ao Wushuang's face was rather ugly. So many sects? All for the body of a god? Elder Qing said, That's most likely the case. Perhaps what we've found is not complete. There should be more sects joining in. Ao Wushuang gripped the armrest tightly. His grip on the armrest became tighter and tighter. With so many celestial sects, the Peerless sect could not fight against them alone. Moreover, these celestial sects were not ants, and the Peerless sect was not an elephant. Elder Qing glanced at the scene and smiled. He cupped his fists again and said, Actually, Jizun, this matter is far from as complicated as we think. Since we already know some of the sects, then we can completely use them as an entry point to launch a counterattack. When Ao Wushuang heard this, his eyes that were filled with anger flashed. He stared at Elder Qing and said in a deep voice, What plan do you have? Their goal is nothing more than the body of a god. If we hand the body over to them, what will happen? Elder Qing said with a smile. So many celestial sects, all for a god's body. So many hungry wolves, but only a fat piece of meat. Jizun, what do you think will happen to a group of hungry wolves fighting for food? When Ao Wushuang heard this, his breathing suddenly quickened and his expression became somewhat fanatical. You mean to give them a fake Su Qing on purpose to cause internal strife? Not only that. Elder Qing laughed. We can also use this to strengthen our Peerless sect. Ao Wushuang was a smart man. When Elder Qing pointed it out, he immediately understood. After thinking for a moment, the anger on his face immediately disappeared and was replaced by a fanatical smile. Good. 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 This is a good plan. Immediately do as Elder Qing said. Ha 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 ha. Laughter spread throughout the main hall. Chapter 1033. Law Hall. After an unknown period of time, on the pillar of light behind Baiji, the golden words flashed again and again. Very quickly, the golden words disappeared, and the halo between the pillars of light dimmed. The immortals gathered in front of the pillar of light all took a step back and bowed towards the pillar of light. The ceremony is over. Disperse. Baiji exhaled. His voice was neither cold nor hot, just like a machine. When the immortals heard this, they cupped their fists towards Baiji once again, and then dispersed. It's finally over. Xiang Yang, who was standing beside Su Yun, heaved a sigh of relief and said, You don't have to be too nervous. It's just a simple gathering. Everything is going according to the procedure. Nothing will happen. Su Yun smiled, patted Xiang Yang's shoulder and said, Let's quickly return to the immortal-seeking sect. There are still a lot of things to take care of in the sect. We can't let Lord Yuan Mo handle it alone. Yes, sect leader. Xiang Yang cupped his fists and the two of them walked out. One by one, the immortals began to disperse, and the Hall of Rules, which had been bustling with activity, became quiet. Everyone, please wait. At this moment, a voice suddenly floated out. The immortals who were about to leave the law hall all stopped in their tracks and looked towards the source of the voice. However, with just a glance, the immortals all revealed expressions of extreme interest. Looking over, it turned out that the one who spoke was Palace Master Lien Zhu. At this time, Palace Master Lien Zhu suddenly said this. Thinking back to the small matter that had happened before the gathering, some of the smarter people already knew what was going on. Xiang Yang's face changed slightly. He looked at Su Yun anxiously. Su Yun's face was indifferent. He turned his head to look at Palace Master Lien Zhu, and Palace Master Lien Zhu was also looking at him. After a while, Temple Master Lien Zhu turned around and cupped her fists at Baiji. Then, she said lightly, Sir Baiji, you said before that the grudges between immortal sects and sects can be resolved by challenging the rules of the immortal court, right? This rule has already been incorporated into the celestial rules. Everyone has seen it during the ceremony just now. Although it has not been announced to the celestial world, in fact, it has already begun to operate. Baiji said indifferently. Palace Master Lien Zhu snorted. All right then, since that's the case, Lord Baiji, I would like to ask you to be fair. Today, my Lien Zhu Palace will challenge an immortal sect. When Baiji heard this, he glanced at Lien Zhu Palace Master. He took 3 steps back and stood there seriously. He stared at him with an especially solemn tone and said, Please tell me which sect you want to challenge. Immortal Seeking Sect. Hall Master Lien Zhu said without hesitation with a smile on his face. Sect Master Immortal Inquisition is here today. You can pass on the message directly. Baiji turned his head to look at Su Yun and asked, May I ask if Sect Master Wen Xian is willing to accept? I refuse. Just as Baiji finished speaking, Su Yun immediately spoke up, and neither light nor heavy, neither cold nor hot words floated over. All the immortals present were taken aback. Su Yun rejected, and in such a straightforward manner. Even Hall Master Lien Zhu was unable to react in time. His originally complacent and playful smile had already froze. He stared blankly at Su Yun, unable to recover from his shock. You just refuse? Yes, I refuse. Why wouldn't I refuse? My immortal seeking sect is not a match for your consecutive Pearl Hall. Su Yun said indifferently. The consecutive Pearl Hall is powerful, its disciples are all over the immortal world, and there are countless supreme experts in the sect. On the other hand, my immortal seeking sect is just an immortal sect that has just started, or perhaps it can't even be called an immortal sect, it should be called a half-immortal sect. This is a duel that we will definitely lose, so I choose to refuse. You. Hall Master Lien Zhu was so angry that he could barely speak. Su Yun was completely shameless, he didn't even care about him. When Xiang Yang heard this, he was stunned for a moment before reacting. That's right, there was no need for the immortal seeking sect to invite him to a duel. After all, in the eyes of many immortals, they were just a half-immortal sect, so they didn't need to care about face at all. The other party has refused. This duel cannot be established. Baiji said indifferently, still in that mechanical voice. This, Hall Master Lien Zhu lost his composure, and all the plans he had thought of before collapsed just like that. If there's nothing else, I, Su, will take my leave. Su Yun cupped his fists, and could not be bothered with Hall Master Lien Zhu. He turned and left with Xiang Yang. Hall Master Lien Zhu gritted his teeth in anger, but he could not do anything to Su Yun, and could only stare at the two of them as they left. This was the immortal court. He did not dare to act recklessly, so he could only swallow his anger. After leaving the immortal court, Su Yun and Xiang Yang rushed towards the immortal seeking sect. On the way, Xiang Yang held it in for a long time, but in the end, he could not help but speak. Sect Master, with the current strength of my immortal seeking sect, it should be easy to take care of a consecutive Pearl Hall. To suppress the arrogance of the consecutive Pearl Hall and raise the name of my immortal seeking sect? Hearing that, Su Yun glanced at him and said indifferently, "Weren't you worried that something would happen to the gathering just now? Why do you still say such words?" Just now. Just now, this subordinate remembered that my immortal-seeking sect is no longer the immortal-seeking sect of the past. Even if we were to deal with a consecutive Pearl Hall, it would be easy. Xiang Yang laughed awkwardly. "There's no need to cause any trouble at all. Why did you accept the challenge?" Su Yun shook his head and said indifferently, "Right now, the immortal-seeking sect only needs to quietly develop. As for our reputation, we do not need to care too much about it. The reason why an immortal sect values reputation is because a good reputation can speed up the development of the sect and attract a large number of immortals to join. The more people there are, the more power there will be, the more resources there will be, and the scale and strength of the sect will also increase day by day. But the immortal-seeking sect does not need to. The immortal-seeking sect has the support of the true Devil Realm and the ultimate martial world, and the support of the Carefree Palace, the Great Ling Long Palace, and the Hidden Dragon Hall. Its strength has already increased to a terrifying level. If we want to fight for fame, it will only cause endless trouble for the current immortal-seeking sect, and on the contrary, it will be beneficial for us to keep a low profile. So we will not fight for it at this time," Su Yun said indifferently. Hearing that, Xiang Yang nodded his head. "Sect Master's meticulous thinking is admirable. There's no need to say any more nice words, I don't buy it." Su Yun looked ahead and said indifferently, "But the Lianzhu Hall and the Half-Leaf sect are troublesome, although we rejected them this time, but today, the Hall Master Lianzhu was also rejected by me, and actually lost a lot of face. I think he will most likely not let this matter rest. If the Lianzhu Hall and the Half-Leaf sect join forces, it will be difficult for them to deal with the Carefree Palace, but to deal with our immortal-seeking sect, they will definitely have some confidence, so I guess that the Hall Master Lianzhu will secretly make a move against our immortal-seeking sect, firstly to vent his anger on me, and secondly to take revenge on the Carefree Palace. No matter how big the immortal-seeking sect is, it is still a force. If they want to deal with the Carefree Palace, they will definitely not ignore the immortal-seeking sect. In that case, my immortal-seeking sect will still be in trouble?" Xiang Yang said in a daze. "There has never been a lack of trouble, but it depends on whether you want to solve a big problem or a small one. Sect Master means, when my immortal-seeking sect does things, we have never been passive. If we take the initiative, the trouble will be small. Let Xingbai find a fault, anger the Lianzhu Hall Master, and force him to duel with the Carefree Palace." "Duel? Can we deal with the Lianzhu Hall like this?" Xiang Yang was startled. Just relying on this was not Su Yun's style of doing things. "We can't deal with them, but we can delay the Lianzhu Hall." A ray of light flashed past Su Yun's eyes, and he said in a deep voice, "The Lianzhu Hall's elites are far less than the Carefree Palace. If I'm not wrong, once the duel is mentioned, the Lianzhu Hall will definitely ask for help from the Half-Leaf sect, and the two sects will send out experts to deal with the Carefree Palace, and when the experts from the two sects are sent to fight with the Carefree Palace, you will be prepared to lead everyone in the immortal-seeking sect to directly attack these two sects, plunder all their resources." Xiang Yang was so shocked that he couldn't speak for a long time. He looked at Su Yun blankly, and after a long while, he said tremblingly, "Sect Master, is this really okay? What's wrong with it?" Su Yun said indifferently, "You have to remember, you only need to plunder resources, kill less people, and be dragged down less. But this is the immortal world. How can we be so reckless? I know this is the immortal world, but you have to look at the current situation clearly. The people of the immortal court don't know that they have just issued a huge loophole in the immortal rule, and that is a duel." Su Yun said solemnly. "During the duel, sending out the experts of the sect to fight and settle the grudges between the two sects is actually not a good thing, because when the experts of the sect are sent to fight, the sect does not have much power to contend against them. If the Carefree Palace takes away the experts of the two sects, then the immortal-seeking sect will suddenly attack and snatch the resources. It will be easy for them. Don't go and kill them after the resources are snatched. The two sects will not be able to provide for so many disciples, and they will naturally disband. At that time, I will let Qin Qianlong come out and take all the disciples away, and then the two sects will naturally be destroyed. Su Yun said in detail. When Xiang Yang heard this, he was truly alarmed. From the looks of it, the entire plan was brilliant. The people from the two sects still didn't know what was going on, but they didn't expect the enemy to have already divided them up, Sect Master, although your idea is good. But won't the people of the Immortal Court interfere? Xiang Yang thought for a moment, then said worriedly. Right now, the situation in the immortal world is complicated. The reason why the Immortal Court came out with this duel is because they have no time to deal with the grudges between the immortal sect. We can only do it at this time, do you understand? He turned his head and stared at Xiang Yang seriously. Xiang Yang's entire body trembled as he hurriedly nodded in agreement. At this moment, he realized that not only was the person in front of him extremely terrifying, even his thoughts were terrifying. Fortunately, he followed this person, otherwise, he wouldn't even know how he died. Xiang Yang thought to himself, then looked at Su Yun, only to see that he had regained his calm appearance. Chapter 1034. In a secluded courtyard, a female disciple of the Peerless sect, dressed in a dark red Blademaster outfit, was sneakily lying on the rock garden in the middle of the courtyard. She was carefully placing a roll of red paper on the ground. She was surrounded by a grayish-white halo. This halo was like a circular wall, completely isolating her aura from the outside world. As long as the people outside did not see her, they would not be able to sense her presence. She carefully placed the roll of paper on the ground. When it was completely unfolded, the roll of paper disappeared without a trace, as if it had never existed. Very good, it's all done, the woman murmured. She immediately got up and scuttled out of the rock garden. She looked to her left and right. After confirming that there was no one around, she removed the spell on her body and walked away. Not long after the woman left, two figures slowly walked out from the dark. The two of them were dressed in the Peerless sect's uniform. They were a man and a woman. When they appeared, they looked in the direction that the woman had left and did not look away for a long time. Junior sister, your guess was right. Qiu Dong has indeed betrayed the Peerless sect. I'm sure she's already working for the so-called alliance, right? The man on the left said. Previously, a few of us were ordered by our sect to go to the quiet cliff heaven to look for the Thousand Hearts grass. However, we were carelessly attacked by a large number of immortals. We were separated from each other and in the end, only less than half of us managed to escape. At that time, Qiu Dong also disappeared without a trace. It was only when we were halfway there that we met Qiu Dong, who was injured. Qiu Dong was seriously injured, but we did not pay much attention to her. However, after her injuries healed, we gradually realized that something was wrong with her. Her cultivation habits and her usual actions were quite different from before. Although it was not obvious, I still noticed it. If I'm not wrong, this person is not Qiu Dong. The real Qiu Dong has probably already died in the hands of those immortals. Those immortals are definitely not immortals who came out of nowhere. Perhaps they are from the Alliance. All of this is just the Alliance trying to plant a spy in the Peerless sect. The woman on the right said. When the man heard this, he nodded in agreement. Quickly report this matter to the Supreme Martial Artist and let him decide. We should report it, but when I was suspicious of Qiu Dong, I had already mentioned it to the Supreme Martial Artist. The Supreme Martial Artist had already ordered that if Qiu Dong is really a member of the Alliance, we should not act rashly and alert the enemy. Let her take action. Let her take action? The man's expression changed slightly. Junior sister, the magic treasure she set up just now contained an extremely terrifying aura. When she removed the aura shielding spell, it's not like you didn't smell the lingering smell on her body. If we let her do as she pleases, once something happens, I'm afraid the consequences will be extremely serious. Don't worry, senior brother. The elders already have a plan. What we need now is for the Alliance to act quickly. They're not making a move, but we're getting anxious. The woman smiled and said in an unfathomable manner. Hearing this, the man thought hard for a moment, but couldn't figure it out, so he didn't say anything. When Su Yun returned to the Immortal Seeking sect, he returned to his own house to cultivate. As for the matter of dealing with the Pearl Hall and the Half-Leaf sect, he left it to Xiang Yang and the Round Demon to handle. The two sects were neither big nor small, neither difficult nor easy to deal with, but this time, Su Yun did not want to do it himself. This time, it was a test for the Round Demon and the Sun. Even with the support of the Imperial Battle Robe and a series of magic treasure, as well as the support of his talent, Su Yun's current speed of advancement had become extremely slow. Compared to the Spirit Sage period, it was a world of difference, and even if he absorbed the Immortal Coin, the effect was very small. The turmoil in the immortal world was beyond Su Yun's imagination, and the speed at which it changed was truly shocking. Su Yun had never thought that he would face such a situation, and even more so, he never thought that he would be able to run amok in the immortal world. Thinking back to the time when he was in the Sky Martial Continent, it truly made people sigh, and the brilliance of the ultimate martial world also made people miss him greatly. For some reason, he suddenly thought of Hu Qianmei. If she was by his side, even if it was cultivation, it wouldn't be so boring. There was also the beautiful Huairomiu, who knew how the two girls were doing in the Beiyang. It was better to take some time to go back to the Beiyang to take a look, in case Hu Qianmei missed him too much after not seeing him for a long time. Su Yun sighed, closed his eyes again, and started to cultivate. He sat there for an unknown number of days. The thoughts in his mind went round and round, recalling and fantasizing alternating in his mind, not dispersing for a long time. Sometimes, his thoughts seemed to have grown countless legs, running around randomly, and sometimes it was as if he had grown countless wings, flying around randomly. Su Yun had never experienced this kind of phenomenon before. When he slowly opened his eyes, all the troubles and chaos in his mind had vanished and were swept away. A strange feeling of tranquility arose in his body and mind, and this indescribable feeling caused him to feel extremely comfortable. This feeling of comfort came more from the heart. Could it be that he had made a breakthrough? Su Yun was baffled, but seeing that his cultivation did not increase at all, his state of mind seemed to have become even more spacious. He was used to being at ease, so he did not think too much about it. Do. At this moment, there was a light and serious knock on the door from outside. Come in. Su Yun raised his head and said indifferently. Creak. The door was pushed open, and a round demon dressed in a maroon-red robe walked in. He closed the door and walked in front of Su Yun, cupping his fists and bowing. Master! Is the matter done? It's done. Most of the resources of the connecting Pearl Hall and the Half-Leaf sect have been plundered. Those that can't be taken away have been destroyed by us. Now, these two sects have completely lost their encampment. The Round Demon said respectfully. How's the decisive battle at Carefree Palace? Su Yun patted his sleeves, stood up and asked. The duel lasted for 3 days. According to our previous plan, Xingbai chose all the experts, first win some, then lose some, delay the people from the connecting Pearl Hall and the Half-Leaf sect, and use the outcome of the duel to attract their attention. At the end, we will suddenly counterattack and directly decide the battle. Carefree Palace will win. Well done. Su Yun nodded in satisfaction. Xingbai's condition for the duel is 10 million celestial coins, as long as Carefree Palace wins the duel, Connecting Pearl Hall will have to pay Carefree Palace 10 million celestial coins, and now that Carefree Palace has won, Connecting Pearl Hall owes 10 million celestial coins. If it was in the past, it would still be possible for Connecting Pearl Hall and the Half-Leaf Sect to come up with this 10 million celestial coins, but now it seems like it is completely a fantasy. Connecting Pearl Hall is unable to pay the celestial coins, so according to the rules of the immortal world, they have violated the rules of the immortal world, but if Connecting Pearl Hall suffered a calamity, the immortal court will most likely understand. In the eyes of the Round Demon, the immortal court will most likely give Connecting Pearl Hall a time limit to quickly repay the 10 million celestial coins, and then investigate the matter of Connecting Pearl Hall and the Half-Leaf Sect being robbed of their resources and the destruction of their sections. Therefore, if Lord Qin were to make a move at this time, he would definitely be able to take in a lot of experts from the Connecting Pearl Hall, and even the Half-Leaf Sect would be the same. This way, Lord Qin's plan would be completely realized. Although he spoke at a leisurely pace, the admiration in his words was not concealed at all. This result did not exceed Su Yun's expectations. In fact, the strength of the Round Demon and the others were not bad, so if they were to do this, there would most likely not be any mistakes. Very good. Su Yun nodded his head and said, "The resources of the Half-Leaf Sect and the Connecting Pearl Hall will all be transferred to the Immortal Seeking Sect, to be used to develop the sect. Amongst the few immortal sects, the Immortal Seeking Sect is still the weakest, so we must quickly raise its strength to be able to deal with the future turmoil." Future turmoil? Yeah, and it's not far away. Su Yun took a deep breath and asked, "How's the situation at the gate of the Immortal Realm?" According to reports, the Immortal Court has already begun to seal the realm. This process will take a certain amount of time, but it will probably be completed within 10 days. The Round Demon said respectfully. 10 days? Then time is a little tight. Su Yun frowned. "Master, we don't know when the sealed realm will be opened. We need to inform the true Devil Realm first." "No need." Su Yun shook his head. "I didn't think about it before. When the realm is sealed, it is actually possible for the people of the Immortal Court to open the enchantment and open the Immortal Realm, but right now we should think of a way to deal with the current crisis." "The current crisis?" The Round Demon cupped his fists again and said seriously, "Please enlighten me, Lord Demon Lord." "Enlighten? What else do you need to say?" Su Yun said indifferently. "The Immortal Realm is sealed, and the people of the myriad realms cannot enter. The main force of the Immortal Court will definitely return from the gate of the Immortal Realm, and investigate the cause of this matter with all their might, and capture those people who came out from the gate of the Immortal Realm. Once the people of the Immortal Court find any clues, then the mastermind will be in trouble, so I predict that they will make their move within these 10 days, and once the mastermind starts to take action, and sees the body of the God Spirit again, it will definitely cause quite a commotion in the Immortal Realm. Since we are the Immortal Seeking Sect, Carefree Hall, Hidden Dragon Hall, and Great Ling Long Palace, it is impossible for us to stay out of this. Then, what should we do? Hurry up and integrate the resources of the Linked Pearl Hall and the Half-Leaf Sect. Then, inform Qin Qianlong, Wei Ming, and Xing Bai to quickly gather all the power in their hands and have the 3 of them come here to see me. We must be prepared before the turmoil begins." "Before the turmoil begins? When does Master think the turmoil will begin?" "When?" Su Yun's eyes revealed a trace of worry. "After a long while," he said. "Perhaps it has already begun." Chapter 1035. Inside the meeting hall of the Immortal Seeking Sect. Su Yun sat quietly at the top of the hall. Qin Qianlong, Xing Bai, Wei Ming and the Round Demon sat on his left and right, while Xiang Yang stood in the middle, respectfully describing something to Su Yun. Right now, most of the experts of the Immortal Court are gathered in 2 places. One is the Big Head, and the other is the small head, which is the gate to the immortal realm, as well as the place between the Pearl Palace and the Half-Leaf Sect. In the past 10,000 years, such a thing had never happened in the immortal world, and the people of the immortal court already felt a sense of danger. At this time, they are probably going all out, and some of the methods of the immortal court that we have never seen before can also be seen at this time. This is the beginning, Xiang Yang said seriously. As soon as these words were said, the faces of the big shots present turned serious. If that's the case, wouldn't it be better for us to keep a low profile and let those immortal sects that can't hold it in any longer offend the immortal court? But from the looks of it, the Lord wants us to gather our strength. It seems like he is preparing to do something. Could it be that the Lord wants to make a move against the immortal court? Xingbai spoke. The Lord naturally has his own reasons for doing things. How could Lord Xing dare to make wild guesses? Furthermore, with our current strength, making a move against the immortal court is simply courting death. Qin Qianlong glanced at Xingbai and said in a low voice. Xingbai's body trembled. He immediately stood up and cupped his fists towards Su Yun and said in fear and trepidation, "Please forgive me, master. You are not guilty." Su Yun raised his hand and said indifferently, "And I do want to take action, but it is not against the immortal court, nor can it be against the immortal court. As for who it is, I can't be sure yet. With the strength of our 4 immortal sects, coupled with Master's peerless strength, it is more than enough to deal with any immortal sect. However, is there any immortal sect in the immortal world that is worthy of us taking action?" Xiang Yang could not help but laugh. But this was just a compliment. Su Yun could hear it, although he had not been in the immortal world for as long as these old immortals. He knew how terrifying the immortal court was. With the little power that Su Yun had, it was not even enough to fill the gaps between the teeth of the immortal court. He was unable to predict how deep the immortal court was. Wei Ming did not dare to speak. In front of Su Yun, he had always been in fear and trepidation. "All right, everyone, let's cut the nonsense. This might be a tough battle. We can't avoid this. No one can avoid it. I'm informing you in advance so that you can prepare in advance, lest you get flustered, lose your sense of propriety, and ruin things." Qin Qianlong and Xingbai still had fear on their faces. After all, the tragic death of Palace Master Xiao Yao was still fresh in their minds. Even though Palace Master Xiao Yao had done it flawlessly, he was still unable to do anything to Su Yun, and had even lost his life in the blink of an eye, and was erased by Su Yun. Wei Ming lowered his head, his face pale white. The scene of Kuei Yang being wiped out by Su Yun's swift and fierce methods was still lingering in his mind. He stood far away, and originally wanted to participate in the battle to help Kuei Yang, but before he could even get close, Kuei Yang was already killed by Su Yun. We all understand what Master means. Actually, Master has already treated us very well. Ever since we have followed Master, we have never had to worry about food or clothing, and we have an endless supply of magic treasure pills. We have also come into contact with many things that we did not even dare to think about in the past, let alone the current Hidden Dragon Hall, Carefree Palace and Immortal Seeking Sect. Aren't the overall strength of these sects much stronger than before? Xiang Yang has already sincerely submitted to Master. Even if Xiang Yang does not eat the heart control pill, he is still willing to follow Master. At this time, Xiang Yang stood up, knelt down on both knees, kowtowed to the ground, and spoke in a serious and pious manner. The other 3 looked at him. Su Yun stared at Xiang Yang, but could not see his face. Actually, regardless of whether Xiang Yang was real or fake, it was not important. At least, his actions had given Su Yun enough. The other 3 immediately stood up, and like Xiang Yang, they knelt on the ground and shouted loudly, "We will definitely respect Master, we will definitely not disappoint Master, we will follow Master to the death." The cheers rippled. Su Yun's expression recovered. He nodded in satisfaction, stood up, and walked over to help the 4 of them up one by one. Everyone, get up. Thank you, Master. Everyone stood up, but no longer sat down. They stood respectfully. Su Yun glanced at everyone, then looked at the round demon at the side. He was still sitting, but Su Yun was not angry. If everyone treats me sincerely, I will not let you down. Su Yun's ability is not great, but it is not small either. Sooner or later, everyone will become outstanding. It was time for him to make a promise, but regarding promises, he believed that these people were more concerned about benefit. They no longer doubted Su Yun's strength. To be able to kill Kuei Yang and Palace Master Xiao Yao, this strength was enough to make him famous in the middle and lower levels of the immortal world. Master! Master! Just then, an anxious voice came from outside the house. Su Yun and the rest were startled. They all looked outside the door, only to see a disciple of the immortal seeking sect running in anxiously, kneeling on the ground. Su Yun looked, his face darkening. This person was actually a devil cultivator, and was sent by Su Yun to monitor the Peerless sect. Did something happen to the Peerless sect? Su Yun asked anxiously. Yes. The disciple was out of breath and said anxiously, not long ago there was a violent explosion in the Peerless sect, and after that, the entire sect suddenly shook crazily and could not stop, not only on the ground, but also in the air. The people in the sect were in the shaking area, and could not even stand steadily, so they had no choice but to retreat. Unexpectedly, at this time, a large group of immortals suddenly appeared out of nowhere and attacked the Peerless sect. The people of the Peerless sect relied on the enchantment to resist for a while, but the other party actually came prepared, and brought a large number of magic treasures that could break enchantments, and pass through all the obstacles. These people, I'm afraid they are all here for the divine body. The Peerless sect's sovereign Ao Wushuang seems to be unable to hold on any longer. Everyone, immediately form a team and follow me to the Peerless sect. Su Yun roared anxiously. Master Devil Monarch, aren't we going to carry out the strategy of besieging Wei to save Zhao? If we do that, we can not only resolve the crisis of the Peerless sect, but also seize resources and develop ourselves. The Yuan demon at the side said respectfully. There's not enough time to go to the Peerless sect from here, and with so many people, it will take a few days. I'm afraid at that time, the Peerless sect will not be able to hold on anymore, since the other party has attacked the Peerless sect. They will not stay for long. If I go around and attack their sect now, I'm afraid they have already destroyed the Peerless sect and come back to help, so what's the point of that? Hearing that, the Yuan demon did not speak anymore. Xiang Yang, Wei Ming, Qin Qianlong, Xing Bai. Listen up. Su Yun shouted. Subordinate is here. Everyone cupped their fists and shouted. I order all of you to quickly gather your people, and gather at the illusory cloud plains in front of the Peerless sect. You must arrive at the illusory cloud plains in one day. If anyone does not arrive, bring your head to see me. Now, everyone immediately send out the message and prepare. Do not delay at all, quickly. Su Yun shouted loudly. Yes, sir. The 4 of them immediately cupped their fists, turned and ran out. The Yuan demon looked at the 4 people who left, took a deep breath, and said, the current scale of the 4 sects is no longer the same as before. With this move, I'm afraid it will cause a commotion. The commotion is already not small. I'm just adding a little more to it, Su Yun said sinisterly. I don't care who the other party is. If they want to touch the divine body, I will definitely destroy them. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.